She has incredible appeal. Have you ever noticed how some people just have this energy that pulls you in? It's not just about how they look, it's the way they own every room they walk into. That's exactly what Helen Mirren does. She's got this incredible blend of confidence and sensuality that feels effortless, like she's never had to try too hard because she knows exactly who she is. And that's magnetic. Think about her role in The Cook, The Thief, His Wife and Her Lover. If you haven't seen it, let me tell you, it's wild. The story is intense, but the way she plays her part, it's unforgettable. She doesn't just act the role, she becomes it. She's bold, vulnerable, and completely in control all at once. You can't take your eyes off her because she's not just performing, she's commanding your attention. It's the kind of performance that sticks with you long after the credits roll. And then there's how she handles nudity. For most actors, it's a big deal, right? But not for her. For Helen, it's just part of the story, part of the art. She's said before that the human body is natural, and she doesn't see the point of making it a big fuss. When she's on screen, it's never about showing off. It's about being real, being fearless. That's what sets her apart. She's not just beautiful, she's brave, and that bravery makes her even more mesmerizing. She's smart and intelligent. Do you know what's even more attractive than someone who looks amazing? Someone who can make you laugh, think, and feel like you've just had the best conversation of your life. That's Helen Mirren in a nutshell. Her wit is razor sharp and she knows exactly how to use it to keep people on their toes. She can disarm an interviewer with a single clever remark, and before they know it, they're completely charmed. It's not just about being funny, it's about the confidence she brings to every word she says. Take her interviews, for example. She's never been the type to shy away from tough questions. One time, when an interviewer tried to reduce her to just her looks, she clapped back with such poise and humor that it became an iconic moment. She knows her worth, and she's never afraid to remind people that she's more than just a pretty face. And her outspoken views, they're part of what makes her so relatable and admirable. She's been vocal about equality and feminism long before it was a mainstream topic. Helen has this way of making complex issues feel personal. For example, when she speaks about ageism in Hollywood, it's not just a complaint, it's a rallying cry. She's shown that talent doesn't have an expiration date, and her career is living proof of that. What really makes her stand out, though, is how her intellect adds to her allure. She's not just someone you admire from afar, she's someone you want to have a deep conversation with. She makes you think, laugh, and maybe even see things a little differently. That combination of wit and wisdom, it's irresistible. She's real and relatable. Another thing that makes men fall for this star so much is how she manages her relationships. It's little wonder several men out there are jealous of her husband. She makes relationships look like real partnerships, not some Hollywood fairy tale. Her marriage to Taylor Hackford, which has lasted decades, is the perfect example. They met in 1986, got married in 1997, and have been going strong ever since. That kind of longevity is impressive in an industry where relationships seem to unravel overnight. But what's even more interesting is how they've managed to balance love with independence, something Helen has always fiercely guarded. Helen has been very open about the fact that she didn't feel the need to rush into marriage. She once said that she got married for the right reasons, not because of social expectations or pressure. That practicality made her relationship relatable. It's not some fantasy, it's about mutual respect and understanding. She and Taylor are both incredibly busy people, but they've made it work by giving each other space to thrive individually. What's even cooler is how her personal life reflects the kind of characters she often plays. Strong, self-reliant women who don't need anyone to complete them, but still know how to love deeply. She doesn't come across as someone who compromises herself for a relationship. Instead, she's built a life where love enhances who she is rather than defines her. That balance, being both independent and deeply committed, makes her so relatable. Helen Mirren doesn't just talk about empowerment, she lives it, even in her most personal choices. And that's a big part of what makes her so admired, not just as an actress, but as a person. timeless beauty. While so many people, especially in Hollywood, try to fight time, Helen embraced it and somehow became even more captivating along the way. It's not just about looking good though, because let's be honest, she looks amazing. It's the way she carries herself, with this blend of elegance, confidence, and self-assuredness that makes you stop and take notice. Her fashion choices alone have turned heads for decades. Remember that silver Dolce & Gabbana gown she wore to the Oscars at age 72? It was a total showstopper, proving that glamour has no age limit. Or the time she's rocked bold, edgy looks that most people wouldn't expect from someone in her 70s? Helen doesn't play by anyone else's rules, and that's what makes her so unforgettable. She's shown the world that getting older doesn't mean fading into the background. It's about standing out even more. And it's not just her style that's defied societal expectations. Helen has been outspoken about how Hollywood treats older women, calling out the double standards with her trademark wit and honesty. Instead of bowing to those outdated ideas, she's shattered them, continuing to land powerful roles and command respect long past the so-called prime age for actresses. What makes her appeal timeless is that she doesn't pretend to be anything she's not. She's embraced every stage of her life with grace, humor, and an undeniable sense of who she is. That authenticity, along with her killer sense of style and fearless attitude, is what keeps her an icon of desire, no matter her age. She's pleasant to the ears. There's just something about Helen Mirren's voice, isn't there? That smooth, refined accent instantly commands attention. It's the kind of voice that feels like it belongs in a palace but still knows how to crack a clever joke at the dinner table. Her accent is quintessentially British, dignified, polished, and undeniably attractive, but there's also warmth to it that makes her seem approachable, not aloof. It's like a perfect blend of sophistication and charm. What's really fascinating is how her voice adds so much to her presence on screen and in interviews. She doesn't just talk, she speaks. Every word feels intentional, as though she's carefully thought about how to make it land. Whether she's delivering a monologue in a period drama or tossing off a witty comeback in an interview, her voice pulls you in and makes you want to keep listening. And let's not forget how versatile it is. Helen's accent can shift from regal to down-to-earth depending on the role, but it always keeps that hint of elegance that's uniquely hers. Even when she's playing a character who's rough around the edges, that underlying sophistication shines through. It's one of the many reasons she's so captivating. Her voice isn't just a part of her, it's part of her power, and men all over the world appreciate and admire that. An attractive rebel. Helen Mirren has never been one to follow the rules or let anyone else dictate who she should be. From the very start of her career, she made it clear she wasn't going to be boxed in. Early on, she took on roles that challenged not just her acting range, but society's expectations. Remember Caligula? Not exactly the typical Hollywood debut, right? She was willing to go there, taking on controversial roles that were raw, daring, and far from conventional. It was a clear signal that she wasn't afraid to step outside the mainstream, even if it meant stirring the pot. But it wasn't just the roles she chose, it was her attitude toward the whole industry. Hollywood often tries to label actresses, pushing them into neat little boxes. Either you're the serious actress who only does drama, or you're the sexy starlet who's just there for eye candy. Helen? She refused to be anyone's stereotype. She didn't let the media or filmmakers define her by her looks, her age, or any other limiting label. She's always been about embracing both sides of herself, playing the seductive, sultry roles as much as she's tackled complex, powerful women in drama. Her ability to switch effortlessly between these two identities, sexy and serious, shows just how much she's rewritten the rules for women in Hollywood. She's never felt the need to choose between one or the other, and that's part of what makes her so compelling. She's the ultimate example of someone who doesn't conform, but instead defines her own path, making sure we all know that it's okay to be more than one thing at once. That rebellious spirit? It's part of what makes Helen Mirren not just an icon, but a force to be reckoned with. the screen chameleon. Let's face it, Helen Mirren's talent is undeniable, and it's not just because she's a great actress. It's because she's a chameleon on screen. Whether she's portraying a regal queen or a scandalous seductress, she commits to each role with a depth and authenticity that's hard to match. Take the Queen, for example. She didn't just play Queen Elizabeth II, she became her, capturing every nuance of the monarch's power, vulnerability, and complexity. Then, flip the coin, and you have Caligula, a movie that couldn't be further from the stiff upper lip of royalty. Helen dove into that role with the same dedication, playing a character in a totally different universe, bold, fearless, and unapologetic. What's even more captivating is how she commands the screen no matter who or what she's acting alongside. She doesn't just fit into her roles, she dominates them. Men in particular have always admired her confidence, the way she takes control of every scene she's in. You can't help but be drawn to her. It's not just about beauty or charm, though she's got plenty of that. It's her sheer presence. Whether it's a quiet, intimate moment or a grand, dramatic scene, she makes you stop and pay attention. That's something that has earned her respect from both her peers and audiences alike. And let's talk about those awards, because Helen Mirren has certainly earned her fair share. Academy Award, BAFTA, Golden Globe, you name it. The critical acclaim has piled up over the years, confirming what we already know. She's one of the best actors of her generation. She didn't just win these awards, she earned them with her talent, consistency, and sheer dedication to her craft. The power of her talent isn't just about playing roles, it's about transforming into a character and making that transformation unforgettable. It's why we admire her, not just for what she does, but for how she does it. She ages like fine wine. Helen is the perfect example of how aging can be a thing of beauty, not something to fear. In Hollywood, where youth is often considered the golden standard, Helen has done the complete opposite. She's embraced getting older with confidence and grace. She doesn't shy away from the lines on her face or the gray in her hair. Instead, she flaunts them like badges of honor. It's like she's aging like fine wine, getting better, more refined, and more irresistible with each passing year. There's something incredibly attractive about a woman who's not trying to turn back time, but instead fully accepting and celebrating every part of the journey. It's this sense of self-assurance that draws men to her. She doesn't need to prove anything. Her beauty is timeless, and it only deepens with age. Helen has shown that the best part of growing older is the wisdom and confidence that come with it, and that's incredibly compelling. Instead of being ashamed of her age, Helen wears it proudly, and in doing so, she challenges the idea that aging means fading. She proves that beauty evolves, and sometimes it's even more striking as we get older. This kind of mindset is rare and refreshing, and it makes her even more magnetic to men who admire her strength, grace, and the way she continues to own her journey, without apology. Her graceful elegance. It's an effortless quality that radiates from within. Helen has this rare ability to be both sophisticated and approachable, graceful but never aloof. Whether she's wearing a stunning gown on the red carpet or dressed casually, she always exudes a certain je ne sais quoi that makes her stand out in any room. It's like she was born with an understanding of how to be polished without ever seeming like she's trying too hard. What's truly captivating is how Helen doesn't just rely on traditional forms of beauty to create her elegance. It's more about how she carries herself, the way she speaks, her posture, the way she listens. She's comfortable in her own skin, and that comfort translates into the way she interacts with others. There's a natural grace about her, one that makes it seem like she could be royalty, but in the most grounded, unpretentious way possible. Her elegance also comes from how she navigates life. Whether she's tackling a challenging role or speaking out on an important issue, she does it with a sense of composure that demands respect. It's not just about looking good, it's about being the best version of herself at all times. That's what makes her truly elegant, not just the gowns or the flawless hair, but the way she owns her presence with every word and gesture. For men, this kind of elegance is intoxicating. It's a quiet kind of strength that doesn't need to scream for attention because it already has it. It's the subtle power of knowing exactly who you are and the confidence that comes from it. Helen Mirren's elegance isn't just something you notice, it's something you feel. It's the kind of charm that stays with you long after she's left the room. Her intoxicating passion. One of the things that truly sets Helen Mirren apart is her undeniable passion for everything she does. Whether she's diving into a new role, speaking out for a cause, or even just engaging in a conversation, there's this fire in her that captivates everyone around her. She doesn't just show up, she gives it her all, pouring herself into whatever task is at hand. That passion is magnetic, and for men, it's one of the most attractive qualities a woman can have. Take her career, for example. Helen isn't someone who coasts through her roles. She fully immerses herself, giving each character depth, authenticity, and life. It's not just about the paycheck for her. It's about the art, the challenge, and the opportunity to express herself in ways that resonate with others. Whether it's playing a queen, a villain, or a complex, layered character, she approaches each role with an intensity that shows she's invested in her crafter and in every story she tells. Men find that kind of passion irresistible because it shows they can't just have her. They have to earn her attention, just like the characters she brings to life. This passion extends beyond her career. Helen's zest for life is clear in how she engages with the world. She speaks her mind, takes on causes she believes in, and does it all with a kind of urgency that speaks to how deeply she cares. She's never passive, never indifferent. She's constantly learning, growing, and evolving, and that's incredibly attractive to men. They admire women who have something they believe in and who are ready to fight for it. It shows ambition, drive, and a sense of purpose, qualities that are undeniably alluring. What makes Helen even more compelling is how this passion shines through in her personal life as well. Whether it's her relationship with Taylor Hackford or the way she engages with her friends and colleagues, you can see that she's fully present in every moment. For men, this level of commitment and enthusiasm is a huge draw. Passion in a woman doesn't just light up a room, it sparks a connection, creates excitement, and leaves an impression that lingers. It's one of the reasons men find Helen Mirren so magnetic, because her passion is real, deep, and unmistakably powerful. The bad girl persona. Sophistication with a bit of a bad girl edge. This is one of the reasons men can't get enough of her. Whether in her personal life or her roles, she has this confidence that comes with owning her rebellious side. It's that perfect mix of grace and grit that makes her stand out from other actresses who might stick to more traditional, good girl roles. Helen's willingness to push boundaries both on and off screen is incredibly magnetic. Take some of her most iconic roles, for example. In films like The Cook, The Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, she plays a woman who's caught in a web of desire and revenge, not afraid to act on her instincts even when they're morally ambiguous. There's an undeniable strength in her characters that challenges the typical portrayal of women as passive or innocent. Helen embraces the complexities of these women, both vulnerable and powerful, showing that being bold, sometimes even a little dangerous, is sexy in its own right. Then there's her role as Queen Elizabeth in The Queen, where she brought a sense of steel and determination to a figure of authority. She wasn't just the prim, proper queen, she was a woman with a sharp, no-nonsense attitude who knew exactly how to play the game. And even though she often portrays strong, powerful women, there's always a subtle edge to her performances that shows she's not afraid to embrace the darkness within her characters. It's this willingness to take on roles that aren't just safe or liked by everyone that makes Helen stand out. Men are drawn to that risk-taking nature. It's exciting to see someone so confident, so unapologetically themselves, and not afraid to break away from conventional expectations. Her bad girl persona on screen adds color to her characters, making them more complex and, frankly, more interesting. Off-screen, it's clear that she's lived a life on her own terms, someone who doesn't care to follow the rules if they don't suit her. That's what makes her so magnetic. She's tough, smart, and bold, and that bad girl energy she exudes is hard to resist. She's a subtle seductress. Helen has this incredible ability to be seductive without ever trying too hard. It's not the kind of seduction that relies on the typical overt signals. It's much more subtle, a magnetic energy that draws people in without them even realizing it. She doesn't need to wear revealing clothes or put on an act to be alluring. She simply is. Part of her seductiveness comes from the way she carries herself. There's a quiet confidence in the way she moves, the way she speaks, and the way she holds eye contact. It's not the kind of bold, in-your-face approach to attraction that some might expect. It's much more about presence. When Helen steps into a room, it's almost like she has this invisible pull that makes everyone around her take notice. She's not loud, but she's undeniably captivating. Then there's her voice, that British accent so refined, yet still warm and inviting. When she speaks, it's like every word carries weight, and the way she enunciates gives everything she says an air of sophistication that feels both intimate and commanding at the same time. It's the kind of voice that makes you want to lean in and listen more closely, which is exactly what she wants. But seduction for Helen isn't just about how she looks or sounds, it's also in how she connects with people. She doesn't have to try to be sexy because there's this magnetic energy in her personality that comes from genuine confidence. She knows exactly who she is, and that kind of self-assurance is irresistible. Men are drawn to women who are comfortable in their own skin, who aren't afraid to own their desires and show them through little gestures like a flirtatious smile or a knowing glance. What makes Helen's seduction so powerful is that it's about being authentic. She's not afraid to let her charm shine through, but it never feels forced. It's that combination of elegance, wit, and vulnerability that makes her so seductive in a way that's both classic and modern. She knows how to capture attention without saying a word, and that, in itself, is one of the most seductive qualities a woman can have.
When Helen Mirren first started her career, one could tell that she may have potential to be a star, an icon in Hollywood.
Please welcome to the stage Dame Helen Mirren.
But as soon as she plunged in, Helen silenced all doubters, not just to her talent, but her amazing range and flexibility when it comes to the roles she took on. Some of them proud and authoritative, and others just plain shocking. Beatty in Hussy. No doubt, Helen Mirren has incredible versatility. At the start of her career, her portrayal of Beatty in the 1980 film Hussy stands as a fascinating testament to her acting prowess. After earlier notable performances in the 1976 film adaptation of Hamlet and the controversial Caligula in 1979, Mirren took on a character that would further solidify her status as a captivating screen presence. Set against the backdrop of a high-class London cabaret, Mirren's character, Beatty, makes a living as a prostitute, a profession that adds layers of complexity to her role. Her on-screen chemistry with John Shea, who plays Emery, her technician boyfriend, creates an intriguing dynamic. The tension that arises due to Beatty's profession adds depth to the narrative, giving viewers a glimpse into the complexities of their relationship. While Hussy might not be hailed as a cinematic masterpiece, it's Mirren's performance that elevates it beyond its shortcomings. Her portrayal of Beatty is nothing short of captivating, and she breathes life into the character with a smoldering intensity. The enigmatic allure she exudes not only draws in the characters within the film, but also ensnares the audience in its magnetic pull. Critics and fans alike were entranced by Mirren's portrayal in Hussy. Her ability to convey a wide range of emotions from vulnerability to strength was lauded by many. Critics also recognized that her presence transcended the limitations of the film's plot, making it a memorable experience. Mirren's future Oscar-winning performances were foreshadowed in this role, as her talent shone brilliantly even in a film that might have otherwise gone unnoticed. In Hussy, Mirren's Beatty is a character who defies expectations and challenges stereotypes. Her performance tells of her ability to transform even the most unconventional roles into memorable cinematic moments. Beatty's smoldering look and Mirren's remarkable acting skill create a character that leaves an indelible mark on the audience's memory. Now, admittedly, Hussy, as a movie, was sort of a hit and miss, but many of the earlier viewers believe that Helen Mirren's portrayal of Beatty is undoubtedly one of the film's redeeming qualities. She was loved for her ability to immerse herself in the character and convey its complexities while also being creative and improvising where necessary. Beatty's presence in the film brought to life by Mirren adds depth and intrigue, making Hussy a noteworthy entry in Helen Mirren's impressive filmography. This role was just one of many in her career that showcased her ability to surprise and captivate audiences, foreshadowing the many accolades that would later come her way. Tanya Kurbuk in 2010. 2010 was the sequel to Stanley Kubrick's iconic 2001, A Space Odyssey, and is often regarded as a cinematic enigma. The film is so profound that many find a hard time believing the film exists. Released nearly 2 decades after the original masterpiece, where 2010 continues the epic journey into space, picking up the story 9 years after the mysterious failure of the Discovery 1 mission. In this ambitious follow-up, a band of explorers embarks on a mission to Jupiter, aiming to unlock the secrets of the cosmos. A huge contributing factor to the mesmerizing effect of 2010 is the cast, and although it included major talents like Roy Schneider and John Lithgow, it's Helen Mirren who shines brightly in her role as Captain Tanya Kurbuk. Mirren's portrayal of this Russian character adds a layer of depth and intrigue to the film. As the commander of the Leonov, Russia's spacecraft tasked with investigating the mysterious failure of Discovery 1, Mirren's character holds a tremendous responsibility. Not only must she navigate the complexities of space exploration, but she also finds herself at the center of enormous political tension back on Earth. Mirren's performance as Captain Kurbuk is nothing short of steely determination. She embodies the role with an authoritative presence that resonates throughout the film. Her convincing Russian accent lends authenticity to the character, immersing viewers in the tension-filled world of space exploration and international politics. Critics and audiences alike were captivated by Helen Mirren's portrayal in 2010. Her ability to convey the weight of leadership, the intricacies of command, and the challenges of diplomacy in the vastness of space was met with acclaim. In a film filled with scientific marvels and existential questions, Mirren's performance was a welcome surprise of just how versatile and talented she is. Mrs. Tingle in Teaching Mrs. Tingle. Helen Mirren's unexpected portrayal of Mrs. Tingle in the 1999 dark comedy Teaching Mrs. Tingle is true evidence of her remarkable range as an actress. This role is arguably the most surprising entry on her extensive list of performances. In the same year that earned her an Emmy Award for her portrayal of Ayn Rand in The Passion of Ayn Rand, Mirren took on the role of the vindictive history teacher at the center of this darkly comedic tale. In Teaching Mrs. Tingle, Mirren's character, Mrs. Tingle, becomes the nemesis of Lee Ann Watson, brilliantly played by Katie Holmes alongside Luke Cherner and Jolynn Jordan. Mirren's presence in this film is a departure from her usual roles, and she revealed feeling thrilled when Williamson thought of her for the part. Mrs. Tingle is undeniably the highlight of the film, with Helen Mirren delivering a performance that strikes the perfect balance between exaggerated dark comedy and the nuanced manipulation of a seasoned academic. Her portrayal of this formidable character is both wickedly funny and chillingly convincing. Mirren's ability to infuse depth into Mrs. Tingle's character makes her a standout in a genre not typically associated with her acting repertoire. Critics and audiences were intrigued by Mirren's unexpected turn in Teaching Mrs. Tingle. Her ability to embody the role of a strict and vengeful teacher, while adding layers of complexity to the character, earned her praise. The film itself may have been a dark teen flick, but Mirren's performance elevated it to a new level, making it a memorable and unique entry in her list of performances. In a year that saw her shine in diverse roles, she added an unexpected twist to her filmography with this character. Mirren's ability to tackle the challenging aspects of Mrs. Tingle's persona, from dark humor to academic manipulation, showcases her immense talent and surprising flexibility. Dominique in Raising Helen. In the world of dramedies, there's one film that showcases both heart and humor, and that's Raising Helen, directed by the legendary Gary Marshall. At its heart, the film revolves around Kate Hudson's character, Helen, who unexpectedly finds herself faced with the daunting task of raising her sister's 3 young children after a tragic loss. But what adds an unexpected twist to this tale is Helen Mirren's unforgettable portrayal of Dominique, Helen's no-nonsense boss and the formidable head of a renowned New York modeling agency, bearing her name as its illustrious namesake. Mirren's moments in the film may be fleeting, but they leave an indelible impression. As Dominique, she channels the essence of high-powered fashionistas, reminiscent of the Anna Wintours of the world. Her character exudes authority and sophistication, creating a fascinating contrast to the challenges that Helen faces in her newfound role as a guardian. Much like her commanding presence as Tanya Kerbuk in 2010, Mirren once again makes a significant impact, even in a film that was somewhat less favored in Gary Marshall's otherwise illustrious filmography. Her performance adds a layer of complexity to the narrative, offering a glimpse into the glamorous and cutthroat world of high fashion, which serves as a backdrop to Helen's journey of unexpected parenthood. In Raising Helen, Mirren's Dominique becomes a symbol of the larger-than-life personalities that populate the fashion industry. Her character's elegance and no-nonsense demeanor are the perfect foil to the film's more emotional and familial moments. While Raising Helen may not have achieved the same level of acclaim as some of Gary Marshall's other works, it's Mirren's presence that elevates it and makes it a noteworthy addition to her own impressive role collage. In the film, her character adds a touch of glamour and sophistication to its narrative, and her commanding presence is a stark contrast to the challenges faced by the main character. Mirren's performance is a standout in a film that may have had its share of critics, but benefits greatly from her presence, making it a unique and memorable entry in her career. Queen Elizabeth in The Queen. Perhaps one of the greatest performances by Helen Mirren is her captivating portrayal of Queen Elizabeth in the film The Queen. This role no doubt stands as a testament to Mirren's extraordinary talent, earning her both critical acclaim and an Academy Award. In The Queen, directed by Stephen Frears and released in 2006, the narrative unfolds against the backdrop of a pivotal moment in British history. The film centers on the aftermath of Princess Diana's tragic death in 1997, a moment that shook the world and sent ripples through the British monarchy. Amidst this emotional maelstrom, Helen Mirren steps into the regal shoes of Queen Elizabeth II, and it is nothing short of a cinematic triumph. Mirren's embodiment of Queen Elizabeth II is nothing short of mesmerizing. From her poised demeanor to her impeccable delivery of the Queen's nuanced emotions, Mirren brings this iconic monarch to life in a way that is both authentic and captivating. She captures the essence of a woman who has spent her entire life in the public eye, a figurehead of stoicism and duty, but who also grapples with her personal feelings and the shifting tides of public opinion. One of the film's most compelling aspects is the exploration of Queen Elizabeth II's response to Princess Diana's death. Mirren masterfully conveys the Queen's initial reluctance to address the public's outpouring of grief and her eventual realization of the need for a more compassionate response. The transformation is a testament to Mirren's ability to portray a character's growth and evolution on screen. Critics and audiences were unanimous in their praise for Helen Mirren's portrayal of Queen Elizabeth II. Her performance transcends mere impersonation. It's a deeply empathetic and nuanced depiction of a complex historical figure. Mirren's ability to humanize the Queen while maintaining her regal stature is a testament to her acting prowess. In the end, the role not only earned her an Academy Award for Best Actress, but also solidified her status as one of the most revered actresses of her generation. Her portrayal of Queen Elizabeth II is a captivating blend of artistry and authenticity, making it one of the standout moments in her illustrious career. Victoria Winslow in Red. In the midst of this high-octane action, Helen Mirren steps into the shoes of Victoria Winslow, Frank's former wet-work agent, and a character that showcases her versatility in a way few could have predicted. Mirren's portrayal of Victoria Winslow is nothing short of fantastic. With a backdrop of gunfire and espionage, she brings a level of sophistication and wit that adds depth to the ensemble. Her ability to seamlessly transition from roles in historical dramas to high-stakes action flicks is a testament to her extraordinary range as an actress. In fact, Helen Mirren's role in Red was so well received that she eagerly campaigned to reprise it 7 years later in Red 2. Her return to the franchise was met with enthusiasm from fans who couldn't get enough of her in the high-octane world of retired CIA operatives. The success of Red even prompted discussions about a third installment in the series, back in 2013. The fact that such discussions were even on the table is a testament to the enduring appeal of Helen Mirren in these action-packed popcorn flicks. By every ramification, the Red series stands as a testament to the unexpected joys of cinema. Who would have thought that a retired, extremely dangerous crew comprising Hollywood icons would become a box office sensation? Yet it did, and much of that success is owed to Helen Mirren's captivating portrayal of Victoria Winslow. Her ability to shine in high-octane action films, coupled with her undeniable talent, cements her status as an actress who can excel in any genre and ensures the series remains a beloved part of her diverse filmography. Nyra in The Owls of Ga'Hoole. Nyra, with her striking red marks between her eyes, was a character who demanded more than just a visual presence. She required a voice that would breathe life into her cunning and ambition, and Helen Mirren delivered that in spades. Every word that escaped Nyra's beak was not merely dialogue. It was a symphony of emotions, an aria of ambition, and a ballad of wisdom. Helen's portrayal of Nyra was a testament to her ability to use her voice as a finely tuned instrument of acting and entertainment. But what made Nyra stand out from the characters Helen had portrayed before was the unique kind of poise that the character demanded. Her character wasn't just a dominating force, she was a commanding presence that left an indelible mark on every scene she graced. Helen's portrayal of Nyra was not about physicality or grand gestures. It was about the subtle nuances of her voice, the way she could convey power, cunning, and complexity through the medium of animation. Now let's talk about how the producers knew they had found the perfect fit in Helen Mirren for the role of Nyra. You see, casting Nyra wasn't just about finding a famous name. It was about finding an actor who could capture the essence of this enigmatic character. Helen's reputation as a versatile actress who could tackle a wide range of roles made her an appealing choice from the outset. When the auditions for Nyra began, it became clear that Helen Mirren had a deep understanding of the character. Her ability to convey the layers of Nyra's personality through her voice was nothing short of extraordinary. The producers saw in her the rare combination of talent and experience that could bring Nyra to life in a way that would captivate audiences of all ages. And as the film unfolded, it became evident that their intuition had been spot on. Helen Mirren's portrayal of Nyra not only dominated the scenes but also elevated the entire movie. She breathed life into an animated character, making Nyra a memorable figure in the pantheon of animated cinema. Queen Elizabeth II in the audience. Helen Mirren starred in the 2013 production of The Audience, and it was simply mesmerizing. This gripping drama, set against the backdrop of Buckingham Palace, explores the weekly meetings, known as audiences, between Queen Elizabeth II and her prime ministers. The production made its debut in London's West End, gracing the stage at the renowned Gielgud Theatre. In The Audience, Helen Mirren undertook the monumental task of portraying Queen Elizabeth II. It's a role that demands not only exceptional acting prowess, but also a deep understanding of the complexities of a monarch's life. And true to her reputation as a master of her craft, Mirren delivered a performance that left audiences in awe. Mirren's portrayal of Queen Elizabeth II is nothing short of extraordinary. She effortlessly captures the regal bearing and dignified presence of the monarch. But it's not just the outward facade. Mirren delves into the character's inner world, providing insight into the challenges, joys, and sorrows that come with a lifetime of royal duty. The heart of The Audience lies in the interactions between Queen Elizabeth II and her prime ministers, a roll call of political giants spanning the decades. Mirren's ability to seamlessly transition between the different eras of her reign is a testament to her versatility as an actress. Whether she's engaging in witty banter with Winston Churchill or navigating the complexities of her relationship with Margaret Thatcher, Mirren's performance is a masterclass in character portrayal. The audience garnered critical acclaim, with reviewers and audiences alike hailing Helen Mirren's performance as Queen Elizabeth II. Her ability to convey the weight of history, the challenges of leadership, and the personal moments that define a monarch's life is truly remarkable. It's a role that demands depth and nuance, and Mirren delivers on all fronts. In the end, Mirren's performance is a captivating journey into the world of a monarch who has witnessed decades of political change and personal growth. It's a role that showcases her versatility and cements her status as one of the greatest actresses of our time, both on the stage and on the screen. Dean Abigail in Monsters University. Despite being an animation, in the whimsical world of Pixar, where monsters under the bed become the stars of the show, the legendary Helen Mirren joined the cast, lending her formidable talents to the animated realm. Mirren took on the role of Dean Abigail Hardscrabble, a character that would send shivers down the spines of both the animated student body and the audience. As Dean Hardscrabble, Mirren embodied the essence of intimidation. She portrayed the chair of the university's esteemed scarer program, a position that demanded respect and inspired fear in equal measure. With her dragon-like appearance and a presence that could send chills down your spine, Mirren's character was every bit as legendary as the university's reputation. What added a layer of intrigue to Dean Hardscrabble was her impressive backstory. She held the all-time scream record, a feat that only added to the aura of awe and dread surrounding her character. Mirren's performance made it all too easy to believe that this character had earned her place in the Monster Hall of Fame. One of the remarkable aspects of Monsters University was its ability to appeal to both children and adults in the audience. Mirren herself praised the film for its wide-ranging appeal. Her portrayal of Dean Hardscrabble added a touch of sophistication and gravitas to the animated world, proving that even in a realm of colorful monsters and playful antics, there's room for a character who really knows her business. Her involvement in Pixar's Monsters University was a delightful addition to her diverse repertoire. It showcased her ability to captivate audiences of all ages, even in the realm of animation, as well as adding a depth and a touch of gravitas to a character that would have been right at home in a monster's nightmare. It's a testament to her versatility as an actress, proving once again that Helen Mirren can shine in any role, no matter how unexpected or fantastical. Queenie Shaw in The Fate of the Furious. The Fast and Furious franchise. In the 8th installment of this iconic franchise, The Fate of the Furious, a new character roared onto the scene, and she was none other than the indomitable Helen Mirren, poised to leave her mark on the adrenaline-pumping saga. Picture the Shaw family, notorious for their intimidating presence, with Jason Statham and Luke Evans at the helm. Now imagine someone even more formidable, and you've got Helen Mirren, a vision of fierceness draped head to toe in cheetah print. Her entrance into the Fast and Furious universe was nothing short of electrifying. The story of how Mirren joined this high-octane ensemble is as intriguing as the franchise itself. It all began at a party where franchise lead Vin Diesel found himself face-to-face with the legendary actress. In a moment that would change the course of the film, Mirren expressed her desire to be a part of this action-packed world. The script for the next installment was already greenlit, but Diesel, ever the orchestrator of epic moments, decided to pull some strings. "She got written in," he declared with a grin, ensuring that Mirren's formidable presence would grace the franchise. While her role in Fast and Furious may have been brief, Helen Mirren made sure her impact was anything but. As the matriarch of the Shaw family, she exuded a level of authority and power that sent shockwaves through the film. Her character was a force to be reckoned with, and Mirren's portrayal left audiences in awe. In the midst of high-speed chases, explosive action, and gravity-defying stunts, Helen Mirren added a touch of class and gravitas to the Fast and Furious universe. Her cameo was a reminder that in this world of muscle cars and adrenaline rushes, there's always room for an acting legend to make her formidable presence known. Helen Mirren's appearance in the 8th installment of the Fast and Furious franchise was a moment of cinematic magic. Her journey from a chance encounter at a party to becoming an integral part of this adrenaline-fueled saga is a testament to the allure of the franchise. Mirren's role, however brief, left an indelible mark, proving once again that in the world of Fast and Furious, unexpected surprises are part of the thrilling package. Click this video to watch the sad death of another epic personality in Hollywood, Donna Douglas.
Helen Mirren is one of the most iconic actresses of the 60s and 70s, but did you know that she has kept many secrets from us for the majority of her acting career? From being raped to being brought up as an anti-anarchist, let's take a look at some of Helen Mirren's darkest secrets. At number 10, her family had a distanced relationship with Queen Victoria. Helen was born Helen Lydia Marinoff on 26 July 1945 in Hammersmith, London. She was conceived at Charlotte's and Chelsea Hospital and was the daughter of Vasily Petrovich Mirinov, who is a member of the Russian nobility, and Kathleen Alexandra Eva Matilda. Her mother was a working-class Englishwoman from East London. She came from quite an unusual family who worked for Queen Victoria in the 1800s. On the other hand, Helen's father was a Russian who migrated to Britain when he was 2 years old. Number 9. Her family changed their last names to get caught during the World War. Helen was not raised in a wealthy family. Her father worked hard to try and make ends meet by being a cab driver and playing the viola in an orchestra. But the Second World War made things harder for the family, and Helen's father started working as an ambulance driver. He was even set for duty in the East End of London. Both Helen's parents were married after World War II ended. The family changed their last name to Mirren so they wouldn't have a problem with the British state. During that period, Helen was born, and since the family had to take care of her, her father left the orchestra he was playing with and put on some extra hours working as a cab driver. He eventually transferred jobs and started working as a civil servant with the Ministry of Transport. Number 8. Mirren was brought up with Bond girl Tanya Mallet. In an interview, the actress considers her upbringing as an anti-monarchist. She was the second daughter of 3 children in the family and had one older sister who was named by her mother, Kathy, and her younger brother was named Peter. However, Helen would spend most of her time with her paternal cousin, which would later continue a career as a model and eventually become known as a Bond girl, Tanya Mallet. The girls were both raised in Leigh-on-Sea, Essex, and spent the majority of the day together. Number 7. A documentary was made about Helen even before she appeared in films. As she got older, Helen started working in the National Youth Theatre. Her talents and performance were so good she eventually got invited to join the Royal Shakespeare Company. During this time, she appeared in many projects. Between the years 1965 and 67, Helen appeared in 4 additional projects that were directed by Bravo Berry at the University Theatre in Manchester. Just 3 years later, director and producer John Goldsmith directed a documentary called Doing Her Own Thing that was inspired by Helen when she was working with the Royal Shakespeare Company. The documentary was shown on ITV networks in the United Kingdom after being made for an ATV. In the year 1972 and 73, the actress worked with Peterbrook International Center for Theater Research and joined the group tour across the United States and even in parts of North Africa. After the tours, Helen rejoined the Royal Shakespeare Company, where she played in the 1974 act as Lady Macbeth. She also made many performances in the Aldwych Theatre 1 year later. Number 6. Helen became the most important actor in the room, even when she was absent. At the beginning of the 1980s, Helen made a return to the royal court for the premiere of A Faith Healer. Here, Helen also won many awards for appearing in star roles in a production of Manchester Royal Theatre called The Duchess of Malfi, which was originally created by John Webster. The actress was later transferred to Roundhouse Farm, London, where she worked on numerous projects. It was reported by Francis King that Helen never left anyone in doubt for her actions. He also added that even when she was absent, this charming beauty remained one of the most important characters of the story. In 1983, she made a memorable performance in The Roaring Girl, where she played as Moll Cutpurse at the Royal Shakespeare Theatre. For this performance, she was described as a radius singularity of purpose that would fill both areas of light and darkness that even Thomas Dekker and Thomas Middleton omitted. Number 5. Helen didn't like having children. In the early 1980s, Helen dated Liam Neeson before both of them finally decided to live together. The couple met in 1981 while working on a film called Excalibur. When Liam Neeson was interviewed by James Lipton, he claimed that Helen took great interest in his career and even forced him to get a personal agent. But sadly, the relationship between the two didn't work out, and just a few years later, Helen decided to get to know American director called Taylor Hackford. The couple married on 31 December 1997, but they first started dating in 1986 and celebrated their marriage in the Scottish Highlands at the Arderspear Parish Church. For Helen, this was her first and last marriage, but it was the third for the American director, who already had 2 children from his past marriages. He failed to conceive one with Helen, as she did not like having children. Number 4. The actress doesn't believe in God. Helen published her autobiography in the UK in September 2007. She called her book, The Frame: My Life, Words, and Pictures. The book consisted of the actress's personal life and secrets, as well as Helen's photos of her during her career. The book has about 200 pages of printed text that reveals everything about Helen's past, mainly in the theater world and during her acting career. In an interview that took place in August 2011, Helen stated in Esquire magazine that she does not believe in God and is a devoted atheist. She also joked about her believing more in leprechauns and fairies rather than God. Number 3. Helen was raped. In an interview with GQ in 2008, the actress revealed that when she was a student, she was raped more than once. She also linked the reason for this because she attended countless parties in her 20s and got high on many medications and drugs. The actress also claimed that the only reason she stopped using these medications was after reading that drug dealers make a living from selling these pills. Number 2. The actress has her own wax figure. Just 2 years later, the actress went to Madame Tussauds London to see her waxwork for the first time. She was one of the very few British cultural icons that were chosen by Sir Peter Blake to take part in one of his most popular artworks called Pepper's Lonely Heart, which was a club band album cover for the Beatles. This artwork was done to celebrate and appreciate the most admired British cultural icons. During this time, Helen was also titled the sexiest woman alive and even made a photo shoot for Esquire magazine wearing nothing else but a jacket. Number 1. The actress loves to stay naked on beaches. Helen was one of the very few models to make it in Marks & Spencer's Womanism campaign back in 2013. She was titled as the leading lady in the campaign and appeared alongside other powerful women in the entertainment industry, such as the Olympic gold medal winning boxer named Nicola Adams, famous pop singer Ellie Goulding, and even Monica Ali. In the same year, the actress was listed as one of the best-dressed over women by The Guardian. She was invited on Radio Times to talk about all of her achievements. During the interview, she was also open to talk about her private life. Here, the actress expressed that she is a naturist at heart and loves being in natural environments such as the beach or the woods, where everyone is stripped naked. She explained that it doesn't matter if people there are ugly, old, beautiful, or whatever. Being naked just makes her feel liberated and unisexual. In 2004, Helen was also named Naturist of the Year and claimed that she is a true naturist and is her happiest while walking around on a nude beach with people of all kinds. Well, that's a wrap up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that subscribe button for the daily videos like this. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay safe and keep being awesome. Until next time.
On the 30th of March, 1939, at the bustling premiere of Maisie in Los Angeles, a star named Ann Sothern captivated the silver screen, embodying the vivacious and witty character that would define her legacy. Unknown to the glittering crowds and even to Sothern herself, this role would etch her name into the annals of Hollywood's golden age, yet also cast a shadow over her diverse talents and contributions. As Sothern's Maisie charmed audiences nationwide, a complex narrative unfolded off-screen, one of ambition, resilience, and the untold struggles within the gilded cages of Hollywood. This story, much like a cipher hidden in plain sight, reveals the intricate layers of an actress navigating the highs and lows of fame, battling the industry's typecasting and gender biases, all while leaving a mark subtly obscured by time. Through the lens of her career, we delve into a journey not just of a forgotten luminary, but of Hollywood itself, exploring the enigmatic legacy of Ann Sothern, whose brilliance on and off the camera remains a testament to her undervalued impact on the cinematic world. The Untold Beginning. In the brisk winter of 1909, the small town of Valley City, North Dakota became the birthplace of a future star, Harriet Arlene Lake, known to the world as Ann Sothern. Born into a family where music and the arts were the lifeblood, her mother, Annette Wide Lake, a concert singer, and her father, Walter J. Lake, a pianist, the stage was set for Ann's entrance into the world of entertainment from her earliest days. The journey from Valley City to the glowing marquees of Hollywood was marked by a series of pivotal moments and encounters that shaped Sothern's early career. In the mid-1920s, the Lake family relocated to Minneapolis, where Ann's passion for acting took root. By the tender age of 16, Ann was already performing in local theater productions, demonstrating a natural talent that could not be ignored. The year 1927 marked a significant turning point when Ann and her mother made the bold decision to move to California. The allure of Hollywood's burgeoning film industry was irresistible, and for a young actress like Ann, it promised the fulfillment of her dreams. Yet the reality of Hollywood in the late 1920s was far from the glamorous ideal portrayed in fan magazines and on the silver screen. It was a place of fierce competition, where countless hopefuls vied for a chance to shine. Ann's early years in Hollywood were fraught with challenges. She found work where she could, taking on bit parts in films like Broadway Nights, 1927, and enduring the hardships of the Great Depression. The industry was in flux, transitioning from silent films to talkies, a shift that spelled the end of many careers. Undeterred, Ann honed her craft, studying at the Pasadena Playhouse and taking on various stage roles, all the while waiting for her breakthrough moment. That moment came in the early 1930s, though not without its trials. Ann's initial contract with Columbia Pictures ended after a year with little to show for it. However, her persistence paid off when she caught the eye of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer MGM scouts, leading to a contract with one of Hollywood's most prestigious studios. It was under MGM's banner that Ann Sothern would find her niche, not as a glamorous leading lady, but as the vivacious, quick-witted Maisie Ravier, a role that would define her career. The Maisie series, which began with Maisie, 1939, catapulted Ann to fame. Her portrayal of the smart, independent, and resourceful title character resonated with audiences, offering a blend of humor and heart that was both refreshing and relatable. The success of Maisie led to 9 sequels, securing Ann Sothern's place in Hollywood's pantheon of stars. Yet the path to stardom was not solely defined by her on-screen achievements. Behind the scenes, Ann navigated the complexities of studio politics, the fickleness of public adoration, and the personal sacrifices required by her profession. Her journey from the stages of Minneapolis to the silver screen of Hollywood is a testament to her resilience, talent, and unwavering determination to succeed against the odds. Ann Sothern's early years, marked by both struggle and triumph, laid the foundation for a career that would span over 6 decades. In those formative moments, a star was born, one whose legacy would endure long beyond her final curtain call. The Maisie controversy. In 1939, MGM introduced audiences to Maisie Ravier, a savvy and spirited showgirl with a heart of gold, portrayed with charismatic aplomb by Ann Sothern. The film Maisie was not just a hit. It spawned a series of 10 movies produced until 1947, transforming Sothern from a talented actress into a household name. Yet, as the series progressed, it became a double-edged sword, both elevating and entrapping Sothern within a specific persona. The character of Maisie, while beloved for her wit and resilience, became a gilded cage for Sothern. The actress, whose range extended far beyond the lighthearted comedy of the Maisie series, found herself battling against the typecasting that often accompanies a recurring role. Despite her success, Sothern's artistic ambitions chafed under the constraints of repeating the same character, yearning for roles that could showcase the breadth of her talent. The internal conflicts at MGM regarding the direction of the Maisie series further complicated matters. Sothern frequently found herself at odds with studio executives and writers over the development of her character. She pushed for storylines that would allow Maisie to evolve, seeking depth and variety in her roles that the formulaic approach of the series seldom offered. These creative disputes highlighted the tension between the studio's commercial interests and the artistic aspirations of its contracted talent. Notable figures within MGM, including producer J. Walter Rubin, who directed the first Maisie film, initially supported Southern's vision for the character. However, Rubin's untimely death in 1942 and the studio's prioritization of consistency over creativity left Southern navigating the series' future with less support. The struggle for creative control was emblematic of a broader issue within the studio system, where actors, despite their contributions to a film's success, had limited influence over their career's trajectory. As World War II raged and the American public sought escapism in cinema, the Maisie series continued to be a profitable venture for MGM, reinforcing the studio's reluctance to alter a successful formula. Despite this, Southern's performances never waned in quality. She infused each portrayal of Maisie with freshness and vitality, a testament to her professionalism and commitment to her craft. The end of the Maisie series in 1947 did not mark the end of Southern's struggle with typecasting, but it did close a chapter on a part of her career that was both defining and restrictive. In the years that followed, Southern sought out diverse roles in film and television, demonstrating her versatility as an actress. Yet, the shadow of Maisie Ravier lingered, a reminder of the complexities of Hollywood stardom and the personal costs of professional success. Hollywood's double standards? The glimmering facade of Hollywood's golden age often masked the stark realities of its double standards, particularly when it came to gender. For actresses like Ann Sothern, navigating this landscape meant contending with an industry that celebrated femininity on screen while simultaneously constraining the roles women could play, both on and off the set. As Southern's career progressed through the 1930s and 1940s, she, like many of her contemporaries, found herself caught in a paradox. On one hand, her roles in films and the Maisie series showcased strong, independent women who could hold their own against any adversity. On the other, the very industry that provided these roles imposed rigid expectations on actresses, dictating not just the characters they played but also their public and private lives. The era was marked by the enforcement of the Motion Picture Production Code, colloquially known as the Hays Code, which sought to regulate content deemed morally questionable. While it impacted all aspects of film production, the code also reinforced traditional gender roles and limited the depiction of women's independence and sexuality, affecting the types of roles available to actresses. Beyond the screen, the studio system exerted control over actresses' images, often requiring them to conform to idealized standards of beauty and comportment. Contracts could include clauses that dictated personal choices, from dating to weight management, reflecting broader societal expectations of women. These constraints were emblematic of the double standards that permeated the industry, celebrating the allure of Hollywood's leading ladies while tightly controlling their autonomy. Ann Sothern's experiences reflect these contradictions. Despite her success and popularity, she too was subject to the whims of studio executives and the limitations imposed by the era's gender norms. Yet through her performances, Sothern subtly challenged these conventions, bringing complexity and strength to her roles that resonated with audiences and hinted at a broader spectrum of female experience than Hollywood was often willing to acknowledge. The double standards of Hollywood's golden age offer a window into the complexities of gender, power, and representation in an era that shaped modern cinema. As we look back on this period through the lens of contemporary understanding, the stories of actresses like Ann Sothern gain new dimensions, highlighting not just the challenges they faced, but also their contributions to the evolving landscape of film and culture. The secret loves. In the whirlwind of Hollywood's golden age, where the personal often intertwined with the public, Ann Sothern's romantic life unfolded beneath the studio's watchful eye. Her marriages, notably to Roger Pryor in 1936 and Robert Sterling in 1943, were not just personal milestones, but events that mirrored the complexities and expectations of a star under the studio system's glare. Anne's first marriage to Roger Pryor, a fellow actor, became a subject of public fascination. The couple married on September 18, 1936, in a ceremony that, while glamorous, hinted at the pressures they faced under the Hollywood spotlight. Their union, celebrated in the press, also underscored the challenges of maintaining a relationship when both partners were in the demanding world of show business. Despite their efforts, the marriage succumbed to these pressures, ending in divorce in 1943. Almost immediately following her divorce from Pryor, Southern married Robert Sterling, another actor whose career was on the rise. Their marriage on May 23, 1943, was seen as a fresh start for Southern, who sought stability and happiness away from the film set's demands. Yet this relationship, too, was subject to the strains inherent in Hollywood marriages. The couple welcomed a daughter, Tisha Sterling, in 1944, which brought joy to their lives, but also new challenges. The marriage ultimately ended in divorce in 1949, leaving Southern to navigate the complexities of life as a single mother and leading lady. Beyond her marriages, rumors of Southern's relationships and associations filled the gossip columns. Her close friendships within the industry with figures such as Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz provided fodder for the press, highlighting the blurred lines between personal affiliations and public perceptions in Hollywood's tightly knit community. Southern's romantic life, though marked by its highs and lows, was characterized by a resilience and independence that mirrored her on-screen personas. Despite the studio system's attempts to manage its stars' images, Southern navigated her personal life with a level of discretion that allowed her to maintain a degree of privacy, a rare feat in an era where stars' lives were open books. Her experiences reflect the broader narrative of women in Hollywood during the mid-20th century who balanced their careers, personal desires, and the industry's expectations. Southern's journey through love, heartbreak, and motherhood offers a window into the realities behind the glamour, revealing a woman who, despite the public's gaze, sought to carve out her own path in love and in life. Blacklisting fears. The late 1940s and 1950s were tumultuous times for Hollywood. The HUAC, established to investigate alleged disloyalty and subversive activities on the part of private citizens, public employees, and those organizations suspected of having communist ties, turned its eye toward Hollywood in 1947. The entertainment industry, known for its liberal leanings and high-profile personalities, became a focal point for accusations of communist infiltration. Anne Southern, whose career was at its peak during this period, found herself in an industry rife with fear and suspicion. While Southern herself was not called before the HUAC, nor was she blacklisted, the atmosphere of the era inevitably affected all who worked in Hollywood. The blacklist, a result of the hearings, led to the shunning of actors, writers, directors, and others accused of communist affiliations, many of whom were blacklisted based on rumors or associations rather than concrete evidence. During this time, Southern continued her work in both film and television, including starring in The Anne Southern Show, which ran from 1958 to 1961. However, the climate of fear and the industry's self-censorship meant that topics that were deemed controversial or too politically charged were avoided. This environment limited the scope of creative expression and the types of roles available, even for those not directly implicated by the HUAC hearings. Notable figures during this era, such as screenwriter Dalton Trumbo and actor Charlie Chaplin, faced significant professional and personal repercussions due to their alleged communist ties or leftist sympathies. Trumbo was one of the Hollywood 10, a group of writers and directors who were jailed and blacklisted for their refusal to answer the HUAC's inquiries regarding their political affiliations. The impact of the Red Scare on Hollywood was profound, creating an environment where suspicion prevailed over creativity, and careers were often collateral damage in the fight against perceived communist influence. For actors like Anne Southern, navigating this landscape required caution and resilience, as the implications of being associated with blacklisted individuals or ideologies could be career-ending. The Forgotten Pioneer. Anne Southern's career trajectory took a pioneering turn when she transitioned from film to television, a move that was both innovative and risky at the time. In the early 1950s, television was still an emerging medium, often looked down upon by Hollywood's film elite. Southern, however, saw an opportunity. In 1953, she starred in Private Secretary, a television series that ran until 1957. The show was a success, showcasing Southern's comedic timing and charm to a new audience and proving that television could offer substantial roles for film actors. What is less known about Ann Sothern's venture into television is her role as a producer. The Ann Sothern Show, which aired from 1958 to 1961, was not just a vehicle for her acting talents. Sothern also took on an active role in its production. This was at a time when female producers were a rarity in Hollywood. Her involvement in the production aspects of the show marked her as one of the first women in television to take on such a role, paving the way for future generations of female producers and directors in the industry. Southern's pioneering work extended beyond her on-screen roles and production work. She was also instrumental in negotiating the rights and syndication deals for her television shows, demonstrating an understanding of the business side of entertainment that was ahead of her time. Her foresight and negotiations ensured that The Ann Sothern Show and Private Secretary would be enjoyed by audiences for years to come through reruns and syndication, a concept that was still in its infancy in the 1950s. Despite these significant contributions, Ann Sothern's role as a pioneer in the television industry is often overshadowed by her film career and her portrayal of Maisie. Yet, her work in television, both in front of and behind the camera, highlights her versatility, foresight, and willingness to embrace new challenges. Ann Sothern's pioneering efforts in the television industry are a testament to her innovative spirit and her significant yet often overlooked contributions to the medium's development. Her work laid the groundwork for future actors and producers, demonstrating the potential of television as a platform for creative expression and business acumen. The final act, a legacy in shadows. As the golden era of Hollywood cinema began to wane, Ann Sothern's career entered what could be considered its final act. By the 1960s, the landscape of the entertainment industry had shifted dramatically, with television becoming a dominant force and the studio system that had once ruled supreme undergoing significant changes. During this period, Sothern's work transitioned more towards television, including a notable role in The Ann Sothern Show, 1958-1961, which solidified her place in the pantheon of television stars. However, it was her return to film in the 1980s that marked a poignant moment in Sothern's career. In 1987, she received critical acclaim for her role in The Whales of August, a film that featured screen legends Bette Davis and Lillian Gish. Sothern's performance in this film at the age of 78 showcased her enduring talent and versatility as an actress. Despite the accolades, including an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress, this late-career resurgence did not fully rekindle the widespread recognition one might have expected for such a storied career. Sothern's legacy, particularly in the later years of her life, is reflective of the broader narrative of many Golden Age Hollywood actors whose contributions have faded into the background of popular cultural memory. Her work, spanning over 5 decades, contributed significantly to both film and television, yet the full extent of her impact is often overlooked in retrospectives of the era. Ann Sothern passed away on March 15, 2001, in Ketchum, Idaho, leaving behind a body of work that spans a critical period in American entertainment history. Her journey from the stages of North Dakota to the silver screen of Hollywood and onto the television sets of America's living rooms is a testament to her adaptability, talent, and perseverance. While Sothern's name may not be as readily recognized today as some of her contemporaries, her legacy endures through her contributions to the evolution of acting in film and television. Her pioneering work in television production, her memorable performances across multiple decades, and her ability to navigate the changing tides of the entertainment industry mark her as a significant figure in Hollywood history. Margaret Lockwood's journey through the world of acting was not just a career. It was a rebellion against the conventional, a series of choices that marked her as cinema's captivating contrarian. From her early days on the stage to her reign as the queen of Gainsborough melodramas, Lockwood defied expectations, choosing roles that challenged and transcended the traditional confines of female characters in British cinema. But what drove her to these choices? Was it a deliberate defiance, a personal inclination, or simply the allure of the complex and the controversial? And how did this contrarian path affect her, both as an actress and as a person living in the relentless spotlight of fame? As we peel back the layers of Margaret Lockwood's illustrious career, we uncover the stories of ambition, passion, and complexity. We delve into her iconic roles, from the virtuous to the villainous, and explore how these characters became inextricably linked with Lockwood's off-screen persona. We trace her journey through the war years, a time that tested her resolve and reshaped her career, and follow her transition to the stage and television, where she continued to captivate audiences with her versatility and depth. This is an homage to Margaret Lockwood, a woman whose legacy in British cinema is as enduring as it is enigmatic. Join us as we explore the life and career of cinema's captivating contrarian, a woman who lived her life with the same intensity and complexity as the characters she brought to life on screen. Prepare to be captivated by the story of Margaret Lockwood, a true icon of British cinema. Early life and ascent to stardom. Margaret Lockwood, born on September 15, 1916, in Karachi, British India, now Pakistan, embarked on a journey that would see her become one of Britain's most beloved film stars. Her early life, marked by a move to London at a young age, laid the foundation for a career that would span decades and ingrain her in the annals of British cinema history. This chapter delves into the formative years of Lockwood's life, her entry into the world of acting, and the pivotal roles that catapulted her to stardom, setting her on a path to becoming cinema's captivating contrarian. Lockwood's interest in acting was nurtured from a young age, influenced by her mother, who encouraged her to pursue her passion for the stage. This support led her to attend the Italia Conti Academy of Theatre Arts in London, where she honed her craft and prepared for a career in acting. Lockwood's early experiences in theater, including her professional debut in 1934 in a production of The Lash, were instrumental in developing her skills and presence as an actress. These formative years in the theater were crucial, providing her with the discipline and versatility that would become hallmarks of her career. Lockwood's transition from the stage to the screen was marked by her film debut in Lorna Doone, 1934, a minor role that nonetheless offered her valuable experience in the burgeoning British film industry. However, it was her performance in The Man in Grey, 1943, that truly marked her ascent to stardom. In this film, part of the Gainsborough melodramas, Lockwood's portrayal of the malevolent Hester Shaw showcased her ability to captivate audiences with her complex characterizations, setting her apart from her contemporaries. The Man in Grey was a turning point for Lockwood, both professionally and personally. The film's success catapulted her to fame, establishing her as a leading lady in British cinema. It also marked the beginning of her long-standing collaboration with Gainsborough Studios, where she would go on to star in a series of melodramas that capitalized on her unique blend of elegance, intensity, and depth. Films such as Love Story, 1944, and The Wicked Lady, 1945, further solidified her status as a cinematic icon, with Lockwood's performances earning critical acclaim and drawing audiences with their blend of romance, intrigue, and drama. Lockwood's ascent to stardom was not without its challenges. The British film industry, like its Hollywood counterpart, was a male-dominated field, with limited roles for women that often relegated them to secondary status. Lockwood's choice of roles, often strong, complex women who defied societal expectations, was both a reflection of her personal convictions and a strategic career move. By choosing such roles, Lockwood not only challenged the industry's gender norms, but also carved out a niche for herself as an actress capable of delivering powerful performances that resonated with audiences. The Gainsborough melodramas. Margaret Lockwood's career took a definitive turn with her roles in the Gainsborough melodramas during the 1940s, a period that not only marked her ascent to stardom, but also saw her becoming the embodiment of a certain kind of on-screen femininity that was both alluring and complex. The Gainsborough melodramas, known for their lavish costumes, intricate plots, and emotional intensity, provided the perfect backdrop for Lockwood to showcase her range as an actress. This chapter delves into her involvement in these films, focusing on how they shaped her public persona and contributed to her image as cinema's captivating contrarian. The Gainsborough melodramas were a series of films produced by Gainsborough Pictures, which became immensely popular in wartime Britain. They were characterized by their romantic and often scandalous narratives, which stood in stark contrast to the realities of wartime austerity. Lockwood's roles in these films, particularly in The Man in Grey, (1943), and The Wicked Lady (1945), catapulted her to the status of a national icon. In The Man in Grey, Lockwood's portrayal of the malevolent Hester Shaw revealed her ability to inhabit morally complex characters, challenging the audience's perceptions and sympathies. Her performance in The Wicked Lady further cemented her status as a leading lady capable of carrying a film with her nuanced portrayal of Barbara Worth, a character driven by passion and ambition. Lockwood's roles in these melodramas were significant for several reasons. Firstly, they allowed her to break away from the more traditional roles assigned to women in British cinema, offering her opportunities to explore characters with depth, agency, and complexity. Secondly, these roles resonated with the British public, who were drawn to the escapism offered by the melodramas. Lockwood's characters, often women who defied societal norms and pursued their desires unabashedly, offered a form of vicarious liberation to audiences confined by the strictures of wartime Britain. The impact of the Gainsborough melodramas on Lockwood's career was profound. They established her as a versatile actress capable of drawing audiences into the emotional landscapes of her characters. Moreover, these films showcased Lockwood's ability to navigate the dualities of her roles, women who were at once desirable and dangerous, vulnerable and powerful. This complexity made her performances stand out and contributed to her lasting legacy in British cinema. However, Lockwood's association with the melodramas also presented challenges. The typecasting inherent in her success with these films meant that she had to work harder to find roles that allowed her to step outside the melodramatic genre and demonstrate her range as an actress. Despite these challenges, Lockwood's work in the Gainsborough melodramas remains a testament to her skill, charisma, and enduring appeal as an actress. Iconic roles and performances. Beyond the Gainsborough melodramas, Lockwood's career was marked by a series of roles that showcased her ability to navigate a wide range of characters, from the ingenue to the femme fatale, each imbued with her unique blend of charisma and complexity. This chapter explores some of Lockwood's most memorable performances, highlighting how these roles contributed to her enduring legacy in British cinema. One of Lockwood's most celebrated roles came early in her career with Alfred Hitchcock's The Lady Vanishes, 1938. In this film, Lockwood played Iris Henderson, a young woman who becomes embroiled in a mystery when a fellow passenger disappears on a train journey across Europe. Lockwood's performance was pivotal to the film's success, blending strength and vulnerability in a way that captivated audiences and critics alike. The Lady Vanishes not only solidified Hitchcock's reputation as a master of suspense, but also demonstrated Lockwood's capacity for leading roles that required a delicate balance of determination and nuance. Following her success in the Gainsborough melodramas, Lockwood continued to explore complex characters, notably in The Wicked Lady, 1945. Her portrayal of Barbara Worth, a character driven by ambition and desire, was both controversial and compelling, challenging post-war British society's expectations of women. Lockwood's ability to elicit sympathy for an ostensibly immoral character spoke volumes about her skill and presence as an actress. Another significant role was in Jassy, 1947, where Lockwood played a Romany woman endowed with the gift of second sight, accused of witchcraft. This role allowed Lockwood to delve into a character that was both outside the societal norms and rich with emotional depth, further showcasing her range and contributing to the film's success. Lockwood's performances were not confined to the silver screen. Her stage work, particularly in plays such as Peter Pan and Private Lives, demonstrated her versatility and commitment to her craft. These theatrical roles allowed Lockwood to engage with her audience in a more intimate setting, bringing a different dimension to her performances and allowing her to explore the nuances of her characters in real time. Throughout her career, Lockwood navigated the changing landscape of British cinema with grace and adaptability. Her choice of roles reflected not only her personal interests and challenges, but also her keen understanding of the industry and her audience. Lockwood's performances, characterized by their emotional depth and complexity, challenged the conventional portrayals of women on screen, offering audiences a glimpse into the lives of fully realized, multifaceted characters. Margaret Lockwood's iconic roles and performances left an indelible mark on British cinema. Her ability to captivate audiences, coupled with her willingness to explore complex and often controversial characters, cemented her status as one of Britain's most beloved actresses. the contrarian persona on and off screen. Margaret Lockwood's public persona was as multifaceted and intriguing as the characters she portrayed on screen. Known for her captivating performances and complex roles, Lockwood also exhibited a strong, independent spirit in her personal life, often making choices that defied the expectations of her time. This chapter delves into Lockwood's off-screen personality, her interactions with the press and public, and how her personal convictions influenced her career and public image. Lockwood's career choices reflected a contrarian streak that set her apart from her contemporaries. She was not content to be pigeonholed into the traditional roles available to women in the film industry of her era. Instead, she sought out and thrived in roles that offered depth and nuance, portraying women who were not just romantic interests or damsels in distress, but complex individuals with their own stories and agency. This approach to her career was indicative of Lockwood's broader views on women's roles in society and the film industry, where she advocated for greater representation and complexity in female characters. Off-screen, Lockwood was known for her wit, intelligence, and a certain degree of privacy. She managed to maintain a balance between her public persona and her private life, a feat in an era when the private lives of film stars were increasingly becoming fodder for public consumption. Lockwood's interactions with the press were marked by a savvy understanding of the power of media, using interviews and public appearances to craft an image that was both accessible and enigmatic. Despite her success and popularity, Lockwood was not immune to the challenges faced by women in the entertainment industry. She navigated the pressures of fame with a pragmatic approach, making strategic decisions that allowed her to pursue the roles she wanted while maintaining a level of control over her career. Her ability to do so was partly due to her talent and partly due to her understanding of the industry's dynamics, which she used to her advantage. Lockwood's personal life, particularly her relationships and role as a mother, also reflected her independent spirit. She was a devoted mother to her daughter, Julia Lockwood, and worked to balance her career with her responsibilities as a parent. This aspect of her life, though less publicized, was an essential part of her identity and influenced her choices in roles and projects. The legacy of Margaret Lockwood's contrarian persona extends beyond her filmography. She was a trailblazer in many ways, challenging the norms of her time and paving the way for future generations of actresses. Her insistence on complex, strong-willed characters helped to broaden the scope of roles available to women in British cinema, contributing to a gradual shift in how female characters were portrayed on screen. Margaret Lockwood's life and career were a study in contrasts. On screen, she was often the epitome of grace and mystery, captivating audiences with her performances. Off-screen, she was a woman of conviction and independence, navigating the complexities of fame and personal life with intelligence and grace. Her persona, both on and off the screen, remains a compelling aspect of her legacy, making her one of British cinema's most enduring and fascinating figure. The war years and beyond. The war years marked a pivotal period in Margaret Lockwood's career, reflecting a time when the entertainment industry was deeply intertwined with the national war effort. Lockwood's roles during this period took on a new dimension, as British cinema sought to boost morale and support the war effort. Post-war, her career transitioned as she embraced new opportunities in television and stage, showcasing her versatility as an actress. During World War II, British cinema played a crucial role in maintaining public morale. Lockwood starred in The Lady Vanishes, 1938, directed by Alfred Hitchcock before the war's outbreak, which became a significant success both in the UK and internationally. However, it was her work in films such as Love Story, 1944, where she played a concert pianist who goes blind, that resonated with wartime audiences. The film, released amidst the backdrop of the war, showcased Lockwood's ability to portray resilience and strength, qualities that mirrored the national sentiment. In 1945, as the war concluded, Lockwood's career continued to flourish with the release of The Wicked Lady, 1945, a film that became one of the highest-grossing British films of the decade. Her portrayal of Barbara Worth, a character who becomes a highwaywoman, captivated post-war audiences, eager for escapism and intrigued by Lockwood's complex portrayal of her character's ambition and defiance. As British cinema transitioned in the post-war years, so did Lockwood's career. The late 1940s and 1950s saw her taking on roles that were reflective of the changing societal attitudes and the film industry's evolution. Films like Highly Dangerous, 1950, where Lockwood played a scientist sent behind the Iron Curtain, showcased her in roles that broke away from traditional stereotypes, aligning with the era's growing interest in spy thrillers and Cold War narratives. Lockwood's transition to television and stage in the 1950s and 1960s marked a new chapter in her career. She embraced the medium of television, appearing in productions such as Justice, 1971 to 1974, a legal drama series that offered her the lead role as Harriet Peterson, a barrister navigating the complexities of law and justice. This role, among others, demonstrated Lockwood's adaptability and continued appeal as an actress, allowing her to reach new audiences and explore different facets of her craft. Her stage work during this period included notable performances in productions such as Peter Pan and Private Lives, where Lockwood's stage presence and performance depth were on full display. These roles allowed her to engage with live audiences, bringing a different dimension to her acting and further solidifying her status as a versatile and skilled performer. The stage and television. In the 1950s, as the allure of cinema began to compete with the rising popularity of television, Lockwood, like many of her contemporaries, explored opportunities in this new medium. Television offered a platform for more intimate storytelling and character development, aspects that played to Lockwood's strengths as an actress known for her depth and nuance. One of her significant television roles came in the early 1970s with the legal drama series Justice. Lockwood starred as Harriet Peterson, a barrister navigating the complexities of the legal system and championing the cause of justice. This role allowed Lockwood to portray a strong, intelligent woman breaking barriers in a male-dominated profession, themes that resonated with her career-long penchant for playing pioneering female characters. Justice ran for several seasons, affirming Lockwood's status as a television star and introducing her to a new generation of viewers. Parallel to her television work, Lockwood's passion for the stage saw a revival. The theater offered her the opportunity to engage with live audiences, bringing an immediacy and energy that differed from her film and television roles. Her stage work included a variety of productions, from classic plays to contemporary dramas, allowing her to explore a range of characters and themes. One notable stage appearance was in the production of Peter Pan, where Lockwood played Mrs. Darling. The role leveraged her maternal warmth and elegance, qualities that had endeared her to film audiences in a setting that highlighted her versatility and stage presence. Another significant stage role was in Noel Coward's Private Lives, where she showcased her comedic timing and ability to capture the complexities of romantic entanglements. The legacy of a contrarian icon. Margaret Lockwood's foray into television and stage during the latter part of her career underscores her adaptability and enduring talent. By embracing these new arenas, she demonstrated a willingness to evolve with the industry and explore the breadth of her abilities as a performer. Her success in television and theater contributed to her legacy as one of Britain's most versatile and beloved actresses, whose career spanned the changing dynamics of the entertainment world. Lockwood's transition from cinema to television and stage also reflects broader trends in the entertainment industry during the mid-20th century, as actors sought to diversify their portfolios and engage with audiences across different mediums. Her ability to maintain relevance and acclaim across cinema, television, and theater is a testament to her skill, dedication, and the indelible mark she left on the performing arts.
The fans may have loved them at first, because after all, they've built a career by acting well. But through the corridors of Hollywood, others saw them for what they truly were. Whether misunderstood or just plain obnoxious, these actors were some of the most hated celebrities of their time. Louis B. Mayer. He was the big boss of MGM Studios back in Hollywood's golden era. Now you'd think being the head of one of the most powerful studios would make him a beloved figure, right? Not even close. Mayer wasn't just disliked, he was outright feared by almost everyone who worked under him. This guy ruled Hollywood with an iron fist and ensured you knew it. First off, Mayer had this obsession with control. To him, his stars weren't just actors, they were investments, commodities he could shape and manipulate however he saw fit. He didn't care about their personal feelings or freedom. What mattered was how they contributed to MGM's image and bottom line. For example, he had strict control over his stars' personal lives. If you were under contract with MGM, you didn't just work for Mayer, you belonged to him. Got caught in a scandal? Don't worry, Mayer's team of fixers would swoop in, but not because he cared about you. It was all about protecting MGM's squeaky clean image. He'd cover up affairs, hush up DUIs, and even arrange marriages just to avoid bad press. Oh, and if you dared to step out of line or refused his orders, he'd destroy your career faster than you could say, talkies. Take Judy Garland, for example. Mayer is infamous for how he treated her. He turned her into a star, sure, but at a massive cost. She was barely a teenager when MGM signed her, and Mayer immediately started tearing her down. He told her she was too fat to be a leading lady and put her on a strict diet of black coffee, cigarettes, and diet pills. Can you imagine doing that to a kid? Mayer saw her as a product, not a person, and she paid the price for it with years of addiction and insecurity. Then there's the whole crying routine he was famous for. Mayer had this bizarre tactic where he'd pretend to cry during negotiations, hoping to guilt people into signing terrible deals. But the worst part, he could be ruthless when it came to punishing disobedience. Stars who dared to challenge him often found themselves blacklisted or trapped in their contracts, unable to work for anyone else. He'd use smear campaigns, legal threats, and anything else in his arsenal to keep his empire intact. It was like living under a dictatorship, but with better costumes. Now, don't get me wrong, Mayer was a genius in many ways. He built MGM into a powerhouse and created some of the most iconic films of all time. But behind all of that, there was a man who thrived on control, manipulation, and fear. That's why, even though he was respected for his power, Louis B. Mayer was one of the most hated figures in Hollywood's golden age. Mae West. One of the most controversial and misunderstood figures of Hollywood's golden age is definitely Mae West. She wasn't just ahead of her time, she was light years ahead, which made her a huge target. She had a sharp wit, undeniable charisma, and a no-holds-barred approach to talking about intimacy. But on the other hand, she ruffled all kinds of feathers back in the ultra-conservative 1930s. Here's the thing about Mae. She owned her sexuality, and she made no apologies for it. At a time when women were expected to be demure and ladylike, Mae came out with her double entendres, curve-hugging gowns, and a swagger that screamed confidence. Too much confidence. And for audiences? That was electrifying. People loved her. She could walk into a room and deliver a one-liner that would leave everyone in stitches or blushing. But Hollywood censors? Oh, they hated her. Mae wasn't just pushing boundaries, she was bulldozing through them. Her 1933 film, She Done Him Wrong, yes, the one that gave us the line, "Why don't you come up sometime and see me?"
Why don't you come up sometime and see me?
Was dripping with innuendo. Conservative groups were horrified, calling her films immoral and dangerous. Religious leaders preached against her, calling her the downfall of American values. She became public enemy #1 for the censors, who were scrambling to keep Hollywood clean. Then came the infamous Hays Code, a strict set of rules meant to keep movies decent. Mae's work was a big reason the code was enforced so harshly. They wanted to shut her down, and they did everything they could to make her disappear. She was blacklisted by the industry, her scripts were gutted, and her career in film was essentially derailed. But did Mae go quietly? Of course not. Mae shifted gears and took her act to Las Vegas, Broadway, and even radio, where she caused more controversy. In 1937, she appeared on a live broadcast with ventriloquist Edgar Bergen and his dummy Charlie McCarthy. Mae, being Mae, turned the innocent puppet routine into a flirtatious back and forth. It was hilarious, but it sent the prudish crowd into a frenzy. NBC received so many complaints that Mae was banned from their airwaves. Yep, banned for talking to a puppet. Here's the interesting part. While the Hollywood elite and the moral crusaders despised her, Mae knew she was making waves. She once said, "I believe in censorship. I made a fortune out of it." That's Mae West in a nutshell, turning society's outrage into a career. She wasn't just a provocateur, she was a trailblazer, proving that women could own their sexuality and still be powerful. So, yeah, Mae West was hated by censors, moralists, and the Hollywood establishment, but she didn't care. She walked away with her head held high, and a legacy that still makes people blush and laugh at the same time. Bette Davis. There's no denying her talent. She was a powerhouse actress who could light up a scene like nobody else. But if you worked with her, chances are you'd walk away either awestruck or swearing never to do it again. Bette was as famous for her feisty personality as she was for her iconic roles, and that made her a lot of enemies in Hollywood. First of all, Bette didn't take crap from anyone. Directors, studio heads, co-stars, it didn't matter who you were. If you crossed her or didn't meet her standards, she'd let you know. And not in a polite behind closed doors kind of way. She'd call you out right then and there, sometimes with a sharp comment or an icy glare that could freeze you in your tracks. To some, this was refreshing. She wasn't afraid to fight for what she wanted, but for many, it was just plain intimidating. Take her feud with Jack Warner, the head of Warner Brothers Studios. Bette wanted better scripts and better pay, but Warner saw her as just another actress under contract. When she tried to leave the studio for better opportunities, Warner blocked her at every turn, leading to a very public legal battle. Bette lost the case, but she won something more important: respect. She was one of the first stars to challenge the studio system, and while it made her a pioneer, it also made her a target for resentment. And then there was her legendary rivalry with Joan Crawford. These two couldn't stand each other, and their feud became Hollywood legend. On the set of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, they took every chance to one-up and undermine each other. Bette reportedly kicked Joan hard enough during one scene to require stitches, and Joan retaliated by wearing lead weights under her costume, making it nearly impossible for Bette to lift her in another scene. It was petty, it was dramatic, and it was everything you'd expect from two divas at the top of their game. Even her co-stars weren't spared. Actor George Brent, who worked with her on multiple films, once called her the most difficult woman in Hollywood. And Miriam Hopkins, her frequent co-star, described working with Bette as a battlefield experience. Hopkins hated her so much that she spread rumors about Bette, saying she had slept her way to the top. Bette, of course, fired back, saying Miriam was just jealous. But here's the thing, Bette wasn't difficult for the sake of being difficult. She cared deeply about her work and had a perfectionist streak a mile wide. She once said, "I will never be below the title," meaning she wouldn't settle for anything less than excellence, whether it was from herself or those around her. That kind of attitude earned her 2 Oscars and countless iconic roles, but it also made her a magnet for conflict. At the end of the day, Bette Davis didn't play by the rules, and that made her both hated and admired in equal measure. She fought tooth and nail for her career, and while she ruffled plenty of feathers along the way, she never apologized for it. Love her or hate her, you couldn't ignore her. And that's exactly how she wanted it. Bing Crosby. To fans, he was the ultimate symbol of smooth, effortless charm. His velvety voice made him a legend with songs like White Christmas, and he seemed like the epitome of the all-American family man in movies like Going My Way. But behind that squeaky clean image, there was a much darker, more complicated reality, and it was his own family who blew the whistle. For years, Bing's public persona was untouchable. He was the guy everyone wanted to invite to Christmas dinner, warm, genial, and endlessly talented. But in 1983, after his death, his eldest son, Gary Crosby, published a tell-all memoir titled Going My Own Way, and let me tell you, it shattered the illusion. According to Gary, Bing wasn't the easygoing dad America thought he was. Instead, Gary described him as a cold, authoritarian figure who ruled the household with an iron fist. One of the most shocking claims was how Bing disciplined his kids. Gary wrote that his father used a thick belt to punish them, often for minor infractions like not finishing dinner or talking back. And this wasn't just your standard strict parenting of the time, it was reportedly brutal both physically and emotionally. Gary said his dad would mock their weight, calling them fatso or bucket butt if they gained a few pounds. Imagine having Bing Crosby, of all people, the voice of calm and Christmas cheer, tearing you down like that. But Gary wasn't the only one with grievances. His brothers also backed up the claims, painting a picture of a man who was distant, demanding, and deeply flawed. Two of Bing's sons, Lindsay and Dennis, struggled with depression and substance abuse for years, and both tragically died by suicide in the late 1980s. Their deaths further fueled speculation about how much their troubled relationship with their father contributed to their struggles. Now, Bing's defenders argue that he came from a different time. He grew up in a strict Irish Catholic household himself, so some say he was just passing down what he'd learned. But let's be real. Being a product of your time doesn't excuse being cruel. Even some of Bing's closest friends admitted he had a temper and could be controlling, especially when it came to his family. The revelations were a huge blow to Bing's reputation. Fans who had adored him for decades suddenly saw him in a completely different light. It was like finding out Santa Claus had a dark side. And while some still choose to focus on his contributions to music and film, others can't overlook the pain he caused behind closed doors. So, Bing Crosby? A beloved icon on the surface, but his memory is forever complicated by the shadows his family exposed. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's a reminder that even the brightest stars can have a darker side. Erich von Stroheim. This guy was so divisive that he literally earned the nickname "the man you love to hate," and honestly, it fit him perfectly. Stroheim was a visionary filmmaker and actor, but his colossal ego, perfectionism, and flair for the dramatic made him a nightmare for everyone who had to work with him. First, let's set the stage. Stroheim was born in Austria, and when he arrived in Hollywood, he leaned hard into this European aristocrat persona. He dressed like a nobleman, spoke with a thick accent, and even claimed to be a count. Spoiler alert, none of that was true. He was just a guy from a middle-class background who knew how to sell himself. But hey, it worked. He became famous for playing villains, the sadistic, monocle-wearing type, and he carried that larger-than-life energy into his career as a director. Now, here's the thing about Stroheim. He was brilliant. Films like Greed and Foolish Wives are considered masterpieces today, but at the time, they were infamous for their chaos behind the scenes. Stroheim demanded absolute control over every aspect of his productions. He wasn't just a perfectionist, he was obsessed. For Greed, he shot over 85 hours of footage, including an insane amount of detail no one would ever see, like gold teeth for extras who barely appeared on screen. Studio executives were tearing their hair out trying to rein him in. And then there was the money. Stroheim was notorious for blowing through budgets like they were monopoly money. Take Foolish Wives, for example. It was billed as the first million-dollar movie, but Stroheim just kept spending, adding ridiculous flourishes like recreating entire European streets for authenticity. Studio heads begged him to scale back, but he refused. For Stroheim, compromise wasn't an option. His behavior on set didn't help either. Stroheim was notoriously demanding and abrasive, treating actors and crew members like chess pieces in his grand vision. Actress Zasu Pitts, one of his regular collaborators, once described working with him as exhausting but brilliant. Others weren't so kind. If you didn't meet his expectations, he'd berate you until you did, or until you quit. Unsurprisingly, studio executives hated him. They saw Stroheim as a liability, a director who couldn't stick to a schedule or a budget. Eventually, they started editing his films without his input, cutting down his epic works into shorter, more marketable versions. This drove Stroheim insane. He considered it a betrayal of his art, and honestly, he never fully recovered from it. By the mid-1920s, his career as a director was basically over. But here's the kicker. Despite all the drama, Stroheim's films are now hailed as some of the greatest of their time. His meticulous attention to detail and his refusal to compromise are the things that made his work stand out, even if they made him impossible to work with. He may have alienated just about everyone in Hollywood, but Stroheim stayed true to his vision, for better or worse. So why was he hated? Because he was brilliant, stubborn, and unapologetically himself, even when it cost him everything. Love him or hate him, Stroheim's work as a Hollywood rebel is undeniable. Norma Shearer. While she was undeniably talented, there were rumors in Hollywood that her career success wasn't solely the result of her acting abilities, but because of her marriage to Irving Thalberg, the head of MGM Studios. Norma was often seen as the beneficiary of unfair advantages. Thalberg, known as the boy wonder of Hollywood, was one of the most powerful men in the business, and his influence helped her rise to the top. Critics and rivals claimed that Norma was handed plum roles that other actresses who were considered more talented or better suited for certain roles didn't get. The idea was that she was being favored, not because of her acting chops, but because she was Thalberg's wife. Her marriage to Thalberg certainly helped open doors, but it also fueled jealousy and resentment from other actresses who felt she didn't have to work as hard for her success. On top of that, she was often typecast as the good girl in MGM's opulent, glamorous productions, roles that critics felt were too easy and not as challenging as those given to other actresses who had to fight for their spots. The real animosity, however, came from her personal life and the perceived privilege she held within the studio. For one thing, Norma was not exactly the best at playing the parts that made her a star, like the virtuous wife or the pure-hearted love interest. Some felt she was much more suited to complex, more rebellious roles, but the studio kept her locked into these lighter, more sanitized characters. Her critics argued that she wasn't just playing it safe with her roles, but that she was being forced into them because of her connection to Thalberg. This perception of preferential treatment followed her through her career, with some claiming that she was given too much creative freedom, like the fact that she was allowed to collaborate on scripts or have a say in casting decisions, while other actresses were fighting tooth and nail to get any creative input at all. As much as Norma was beloved by her fans, the truth was that within Hollywood she often found herself at odds with many of her peers. They accused her of having it easy because of who she was married to. It's like she had this giant target on her back because she was married to one of the most powerful men in the industry, and no matter how hard she worked, some people could never let go of the idea that she had an unfair advantage. The reality might be somewhere in between. She was certainly talented, but her marriage to Thalberg certainly opened doors that others had to fight their way through. Jean Harlow. Her persona on screen was often seen as vulgar and cheap by many in the industry. Her roles frequently played on her sexuality, casting her as the dumb blonde or the seductress, which fueled the stereotype of her as nothing more than a pretty face. Critics didn't just see her as an object of desire, they saw her as a symbol of moral decline. To a conservative Hollywood elite, her overtly sexualized image and the way she embraced her sexuality were dangerous. But the harshest judgment came from her tumultuous personal life. Harlow's relationships, especially her brief, troubled marriage to MGM executive Paul Byrne, were the subject of intense public scrutiny. When Byrne died under mysterious circumstances, rumors swirled that Harlow was involved, further tarnishing her reputation. The media had a field day with her personal life, and Hollywood insiders saw her as someone who couldn't separate her public persona from her private one. The more Hollywood tried to control her image, the more it seemed to alienate her. Her critics painted her as a symbol of Hollywood's tawdry side, someone who existed only to be ogled and whose life was filled with scandal. This portrayal overshadowed the more complex woman behind the scenes. Jean Harlow was, in fact, a highly intelligent, ambitious woman who had a sharp business sense and was actively involved in her career. She was also known for being kind-hearted and generous with those around her. But none of that mattered in the public eye. The more the press sensationalized her image, the more they reduced her to the blonde bombshell trope. On top of this, Jean's fierce determination to succeed in an industry that was dominated by powerful men didn't always sit well with her male counterparts. While she was known to stand her ground and fight for her roles, many saw her as ungrateful or difficult to work with, which only added fuel to the fire. The tragic part? By the time Jean's career was peaking, she was already suffering from health problems, including kidney failure, which would eventually take her life at just 26. Her untimely death only added to her legend, but it also meant she didn't live long enough to truly redefine her image. So, while Jean Harlow was viewed by many as a symbol of Hollywood's excess and scandal, the truth is, her story was much more complicated than the image people had of her. She may have been called vulgar by critics, but in reality she was a pioneering figure in Hollywood, a woman who broke the mold in an industry that demanded conformity. Gloria Swanson. Her feud with director Cecil B. DeMille in particular became a point of tension. Swanson's work with DeMille, especially in the early days of her career, was highly successful. But she wasn't one to bow down to anyone, and as her fame grew, she became more unwilling to take orders. Her departure from DeMille's productions signified a major break, with some saying it was due to her refusal to adhere to the director's traditional ways of working. But it wasn't just her behavior on set that turned people off, it was also her sense of entitlement. Gloria was often accused of trying to control her career and public image in a way that could be seen as manipulative. As one of the biggest stars of the silent film era, she became accustomed to being treated like royalty, and she expected that same level of adoration from everyone around her, even when her star power began to wane.
One thing is true, the stars of the Golden Age knew how to have a good time. They were known for hosting some of the most famous parties of the era, with some of the top people in society in attendance. You could be sure to see all kinds of things at such parties, from overflowing booze to vices. While all of these are normal at parties, some of these Golden Age parties went too far, and even made it into the news because of how scandalous they were. From the rumored orgies at Jane Mansfield's mansion to Fatty Arbuckle's deadly party, these 10 scandalous parties that took place in the Golden Age still shock people to this day. The Roaring Twenties Party. In the mid-1950s, America's power couple, Eddie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds, decided to host a party in their backyard, but this was not just any party. It was one that got people talking for a while. A good number of Hollywood couples threw parties in their homes during the Golden Age, but Eddie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds' 1955 party was said to be unforgettable. At the time, Eddie Fisher was known for his smooth and romantic chart-topping hits, while Debbie Reynolds, who was clearly smitten by the singer, was making waves as an actress. They both were at the peak of their careers in the 50s, and they were determined to keep working towards their goals. But every now and then, the couple loved to unwind and have fun by partying. Achieving such great things and getting famous in their 20s left them feeling fulfilled, and what better way to celebrate than to organize a party-themed Roaring Twenties. They wanted to enjoy their youth along with friends, and that was exactly what they did. They decided to transform their garage into a playroom as they set out to host one of the most exclusive parties in town. They invited some young stars like Tab Hunter, the poster boy for Teenage Dreams, and Leon Tyre, the charming actor. When the party began, everything seemed innocent, and the atmosphere was electric with the promise of a night to remember. But soon enough, it became obvious that this was not a regular party. It was a party where seemingly innocent young stars came ready to unleash their wild side. The party gave them permission to shed their public personas and reveal a wild side hidden from the prying eyes of the paparazzi. It was said that the party was not one for innocent eyes, as subtle glances turned into lingering touches, and the stars allegedly consumed all kinds of substances. From the pictures that circulated after the party, one could see that they all let loose and partied with reckless abandon. Most of the stars there were busy exploring their raw, untamed passion, and no one was left out of the fun. Only the people who attended the party truly know what happened that night, but rumors circulated that it was a bit too wild. No one expected it to turn out that way, especially because Debbie Reynolds and Eddie were known to have a wholesome image. MGM's Dark 1937 Party. The MGM's Grand Party in 1937 was an event that a lot of people enjoyed, but for one actress, Patricia Douglas, it turned into a night she desperately wanted to erase. According to reports, the party was organized in Los Angeles in honor of MGM's top salesman. There were already rumors about the strange things that the top men in the studio did behind closed doors, but not many people knew the extent of it. Before the party began, the studio brought the salesmen in by train from different parts of the country, and it looked like it was going to be the most glamorous party of the year. The event was extravagant, with star-studded meet and greets, marching bands to lead the way, and even a fleet of motorcycle cops providing a grand entrance. There was a private rail car brimming with promise, booze, and lively conversations. To commence the ceremony, which was to take place at the famous Ambassador Hotel, MGM's Louis B. Mayer stepped on stage and gave a speech. But it was after the ceremony that the convention's grandeur took a dark twist. The centerpiece was a lavish party with the comedic brilliance of Laurel and Hardy and the mesmerizing Dandridge sisters. And there was an open bar, ensuring that spirits were as high as the Hollywood Hills. Yet, amid all the dazzle, Patricia Douglas, a dancer and movie extra, found herself in a nightmarish situation. She was one of 120 young women told they were destined for an on-location film shoot that evening. However, once they arrived, they realized they were trapped in an event with a sinister underbelly. It was said that the party was not a normal party, but a stag party. Several strange acts were rumored to have taken place on that night, but one of the most shocking was what happened to the young actress Patricia Douglas. As the night wore on, Douglas, amid the glitz and glamour, was allegedly targeted by a drunken salesman who not only forced her to consume alcohol, but also took alleged advantage of her. Never in her lifetime would she have thought that someone would do such a thing to her. She was devastated and shocked, but Patricia was not one to stay silent. She raised her voice and spoke out about what happened to her. She explained every detail, hoping to get justice. Unfortunately, the court was not exactly in her favor, not because she was lying, but because MGM allegedly made the story disappear. MGM didn't want the world to know that one of their best salesmen took advantage of an underage girl at a party they organized. This kind of scandal would have tarnished the image of the studio forever, so they used their influence to make the scandal disappear. Jayne Mansfield's Wild Mansion Party. Mansfield was a Hollywood star who defined the word wild. She was known for her fearless embrace of sensuality and glamour. Her figure-hugging outfits, her trademark blonde bombshell hair, and her smile were the weapons in her arsenal. She made sure the cameras loved her, and they sure did. But the wildness didn't stop at her looks. Jayne was a party animal, and her Hollywood Hills mansion was the backdrop for some of the wildest soirees that ever graced the hills. If you want to have an idea of what her parties looked like, picture a mansion in the Hollywood Hills with the stars twinkling overhead and the poolside lit up like a movie set. This was the setting for one of Jayne Mansfield's notorious house parties, a place where the word excess took on a whole new meaning. Excessive drinking, late-night revelry, and perhaps more were part of the package. There are rumors that these soirees weren't just about clinking glasses and polite chit-chat. The night would often take on a more uninhibited vibe, with guests participating in some, let's say, risque activities. There were rumors that her guests got involved in orgies during these parties. Some people even said she taped these acts for her guests. Yet it wasn't just about the parties. Jayne Mansfield was also known for her infamous affairs with some of the biggest names of the time, including Robert Kennedy and his brother John F. Kennedy. And it's safe to say that both Kennedys seemed to have a thing for the blonde bombshell. What happened behind the closed doors of Jayne Mansfield's house remains veiled in the allure of an era when stars lived larger than life. The Las Vegas Wild Party. Although the stars of old Hollywood partied a lot, these parties were mostly private and exclusive. Most times, only the stars in attendance witnessed firsthand what really happened in these parties. However, some of these parties made it to the tabloids because of the rumors that circulated about them. One of these parties was a 1950 Las Vegas party that played host to Montgomery Clift and an array of luminaries. On this particular night, a lavish party was about to unfold within the hallowed walls of a nightclub. The club was said to have imported several Hollywood stars for the party, which started off as a banquet. As the clock struck midnight, a parade of Hollywood's most illustrious names descended upon the club. Among the stars, the charismatic Desi Arnaz, the enchanting Lucille Ball, and the alluring Marlene Dietrich took center stage.
The party started with a fancy dinner, but as the hours ticked by, things got wild. Photographs captured by the flashbulbs of the era's paparazzi showed a glimpse of the spectacle unfolding behind the club's closed doors. Rows of champagne glasses glistened in the dimly lit room, and laughter and chatter filled the air. But it was what remained hidden from those photos that ignited the most scandalous rumors. While it looked like the party was a casual get-together, these Hollywood stars wanted to do more than just meeting and sipping champagne. They wanted to let loose and do things that they would never be caught doing in public. Behind the scenes, there was a lot going on. Rumors started to spread about this party. People said there was lots of drinking and even some drug use. Even the stars that were known to be reserved and laid back unleashed another side. The club made room for these Hollywood stars to do whatever they wanted. There were no restrictions, but they did all these with the understanding that whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. From every indication, the party turned into something wilder than anyone expected. The stars, known for their perfect public images, took off their masks, let loose, and did things that were a bit scandalous. Errol Flynn's weird parties. Because of how wild and wayward Errol Flynn was as a child, his own mother had a hard time coping with him. As a result of this, their relationship was rocky, and she even referred to him as the devil for some weird reason. Interestingly, Errol grew up to become an adventurous man who did not live by the rules, and he became a party animal too. While his career was thriving, the actor was hosting all kinds of parties in his mansion, and most of these parties were scandalous. Almost every week, he came together with the likes of Clark Gable, David Niven, and Olivia de Havilland to party. It was alleged that some of these stars even enjoyed watching the wild animals at the back of Flynn's house. It was said that his mansion was a sprawling Spanish-style abode with hidden alcoves and secret passageways. It's the perfect setting for a night of revelry. Now it's said that the drinks flowed freely at Flynn's parties, and it wasn't just your run-of-the-mill cocktails. We're talking about top-shelf liquor and champagne that never seemed to run out. The laughter and the clinking of glasses were only rivaled by the sound of jazz music filling the air. As the night went on, the parties took on a life of their own. Flynn, known for his charm and charisma, was at the center of it all, regaling guests with stories of his adventures. But it wasn't just about conversation. His parties were rumored to have been wild, with guests dancing with abandon and whispers of romantic escapades in hidden corners of the mansion. But it was said that most of the guests who attended his parties preferred not to talk about what happened behind closed doors. It was almost like he turned his house into a place where his co-stars came and did wild things they wouldn't dare to do on camera. Hedda Hopper's unforgettable birthday bash. You've probably heard of some wild Hollywood parties, but this one was next level. Hedda Hopper was a prominent American gossip columnist and actress known for her influential role in the world of Hollywood journalism. The star-studded guest list read the likes of Judy Garland and Clark Gable, two icons in their own right, walking through the door. You can imagine the paparazzi bulbs popping like crazy, capturing every moment of what was shaping up to be a legendary night. The setting was as lavish as they come. We're talking about decorations that could rival the grandeur of a blockbuster film set. The champagne was excess, and there was an air of decadence hanging heavy in the room. However, the party wasn't just about mingling and sipping bubbly. It was rumored that the drinks were more than just cocktails. They were a one-way ticket to the wildest stories you'd ever hear. The excessive drinking was almost a given, and the night seemed to unravel into one for the Hollywood history books. The details of what exactly went down have been hushed over the years, reminding us that sometimes what happens in Hollywood stays tantalizingly behind closed doors. Joan Crawford's 1951 party. Let's step back in time to 1951 when the glamour of Hollywood was in full swing. A party to remember was in the works, and the star of the show, none other than Joan Crawford herself. The party took place at Stork Club, New York, but it was not your regular party. The Stork Club in Hollywood is a name that resonates with late-night revelry and the kind of extravagance that only old Hollywood could conjure. This was the place where Frank Sinatra crooned, Marilyn Monroe dazzled, and Humphrey Bogart owned the night.
But that fateful night, Joan Crawford was the star of the night. Joan Crawford was known for being one of the most prominent and versatile actresses in the golden age of Hollywood. She was celebrated for her remarkable career, spanning several decades, and was renowned for her roles in films like Mildred Pierce, Possessed, and The Woman. The actress was also said to be a free spirit. When it came to partying, she did whatever she pleased. So on that starry night, Joan Crawford arrived at the Stork Club in grand style, ready to let loose and paint the town red. Rumor had it that the party took a wild turn. The party may have looked like an innocent gathering on the surface, but it was nothing close to innocent behind closed doors. After the party, photographs from the party began to circulate like wildfire and showcased Joan, the epitome of Hollywood elegance, letting her hair down, indulging in vices, and having the time of her life. It was a party where some glamorous stars had their moments of wild abandon. Sophia Loren's Los Angeles party. It was the year 1957, and Sophia Loren was throwing a party that was about to go down in Hollywood's history. If you've ever seen that iconic snapshot of Sophia eyeing Jane Mansfield's daring cleavage, well, that's just a sneak peek of what was in store that fateful night. The Paramount Pictures lot was buzzing with anticipation, all for the lady of the hour, Sophia Loren. You see, this wasn't your average soiree. This was an ode to glamour, star power, and a touch of wildness. Hollywood bombshells and the creme de la creme of Tinseltown's leading men were in attendance. The guest list read like a Hollywood Walk of Fame. But it wasn't just the people in attendance that caught people's attention. It was the things that they indulged in. If there was a queen of wild parties, it would be her. And guess what? She was there, right by Sophia's side. You just knew this night was about to take a walk on the wild side. The pictures from the party showed that Jane Mansfield had let go completely and was ready to have a good time. Behind those closed doors, things were heating up. People indulged in vices, puffing on cigarettes and sipping cocktails like there was no tomorrow. The air was thick with laughter, secrets, and that unmistakable Hollywood magic. People whispered about clandestine affairs, hidden rendezvous, and wild antics that made this party legendary. The truth is, it played out just like any other wild Hollywood soiree, excess, indulgence, and stories to tell for years to come. Sophia Loren's 1957 party was a night to remember, or maybe one to forget, depending on how much you indulged. The Wild Garden of Allah party. The Garden of Allah was a grand stage for Hollywood's wildest rendezvous in the 1920s and 30s. This wasn't just a hotel, it was a swirling maelstrom of glamour, gin, and gossip. The things that happened in this hotel would shock anyone who wasn't part of Hollywood's elite. Imagine stepping through the hotel's grand entrance, the faint strains of jazz dancing in the air. The lobby, adorned with Art Deco splendor, was calm before the storm. Once you entered the heart of the hotel, the real revelry began. This was the place where the likes of Errol Flynn partied. Excessive drinking was practically a Garden of Allah ritual. The bartender, a maestro of mixology, concocted cocktails that could make Hemingway blush. As the night aged, so did inhibitions. The stars, whether Fitzgerald with his novels or Flynn with his swashbuckling charm, were no strangers to the allure of a well-filled glass. But it wasn't just the booze that flowed there. It was secrets and scandals, too. You'd find affairs blooming amidst the potted palms, trysts concealed behind heavy velvet curtains. Stars whispered sweet promises under dim chandeliers, knowing full well that the dawn would uncover their transgressions. Gossip flowed through the garden like the wine in their glasses. In 1930, a notorious party at the Garden had F. Scott Fitzgerald at the center of a fiery altercation. He reportedly threw a champagne glass at his wife Zelda during a heated argument. The party didn't just end in a whisper, it made headlines across the nation. These parties were wild. The Garden of Allah was a melting pot of vice and virtue, an incubator for scandal and salacious stories. Imagine, in the 1920s and 30s, the world was emerging from the constraints of prohibition, and Hollywood had a thirst to quench. If you'd attended, you'd be swept into a tempest of cocktails and carousing, where the laughter was raucous, the music was intoxicating, and the shadows concealed more than you could imagine. It was a place where stars shone brightest and fell hardest, where Hollywood's secrets and sins were laid bare under the California stars. These parties were a whirlwind of decadence and debauchery, where the only rule was to indulge in every whim. The excesses of the Marion Davies Beach House. On the sun-kissed shores of Santa Monica in the 1920s, that's where you'd find the exclusive world of Marion Davies Beach House bashes, where the newspaper magnate William Randolph Hearst and his mesmerizing mistress Marion Davies played host to extravagant gatherings that redefined the very essence of opulence. It was in this very house that a Hollywood star almost got shot. The scene was set against the backdrop of the Pacific Ocean, where golden sands met the blue horizon. The likes of Charlie Chaplin, the silent film maestro, and Greta Garbo, the enigmatic siren, were said to have partied there. However, chaos wasn't just a stranger, it was an unwelcome guest at these parties. The very extravagance that made these parties legendary also made them vulnerable to spiraling into mayhem. It wasn't unusual for the evening to end in a storm of shouting, shoving, and sometimes even broken glasses. For example, a notorious incident took place in 1924 when Hearst, known for his temper, allegedly pulled a gun on fellow guest Charlie Chaplin during an argument. It was the sort of drama that would give tabloids enough material to fuel their presses for weeks. If you were to attend such parties, you'd be a witness to history, a participant in the surreal world where excess was an art form. You'd see stars of the silver screen at the pinnacle of their fame, dressed in their finest, yet sometimes descending into the depths of chaos. You'd see the allure of Hollywood, but also the dark side of indulgence. These beach house bashes weren't just parties, they were a representation of the things that happened when Hollywood stars came together and decided to indulge in whatever they wanted to do. When the cameras were not present, these beach house bashes were a source of escape from the pressures of fame. These parties, as crazy as they seemed, were like a scene from Judy Garland's life. In the shadowy corridors of Hollywood's golden age, there existed a group of defiant figures that etched their names into history. They were called the Hollywood 10. Who were they, really? Well, they were the creative minds, the screenwriters, directors, and producers who stood unwavering in the face of political turbulence, a defiant glare against the stifling Red Scare. Summoned before the House Un-American Activities Committee, they chose defiance over compromise, their audacious refusal to cooperate marking them as unfriendly witnesses. The consequences were severe, a swift and ruthless blacklisting by the Hollywood studio system that left their careers in ruins. We would be discussing some of the Hollywood 10 and some other Hollywood stars whose careers were ruined by politics. Lena Horne. Anyone who knew Lena Horne knew that she was someone who spoke her mind and damned the consequences. As she ventured into the world of cinema, little did she know that her outspokenness and political affiliations would become a thorn in her side, ultimately leading to her exclusion from the studio system during the turbulent 1950s. Imagine the heartache of being so close to your dreams, and yet having them cruelly snatched away. Lena Horne was on the brink of stardom, but her vocal support for causes that ruffled the feathers of the Hollywood elite led to her being blacklisted. It was as if the silver screen she aspired to grace had turned its back on her. Lena's life suddenly turned upside down, and she now had to start from the scratch, all over again. However, Lena Horne was not one to be defeated by the whims of the industry. In a remarkable act of resilience, she returned to her roots as a nightclub singer. This was her phoenix moment, rising from the ashes of rejection. She used this time to refine her craft, transforming herself into a captivating performer and a symbol of strength for those who faced similar adversity. As the years rolled on, Horne's career took an unexpected turn. She became a fixture on television variety shows, captivating audiences with her charisma and artistry. It was almost as if her blacklisting had inadvertently launched her into the hearts and living rooms of millions of viewers across the nation. But Lena Horne's story isn't just one of personal redemption, it's one of principled dedication. During the 1960s, a tumultuous period in American history, Horne emerged as a shining beacon of the civil rights movement. Her passion for equality and justice made her a prominent figure, not only on the stage but also in the fight for a more inclusive society. So while the Hollywood studio system may have rejected Lena Horne, it couldn't extinguish her star. Her journey from the glitz and glamour of the silver screen to the passionate advocacy for civil rights made her one of Hollywood's unforgettable stars. Lena's legacy continues to shine brightly, reminding us that true stars are those who stand unwaveringly for what they believe in, even in the face of adversity. Orson Welles. He was the enigmatic genius of Hollywood, but he found himself caught in the web of political intrigue during an era when the Red Scare was in full swing. Although his journey may not have mirrored the overt blacklisting that many artists faced, his career took a covert turn, influenced by the same current events. Here's how it all happened. Welles's defining masterpiece, Citizen Kane, was a cinematic triumph that raised eyebrows and ruffled feathers in the political landscape of its time. However, the film's thinly veiled critique of media mogul William Randolph Hearst, a noted anti-communist figure, was enough to draw the ire of those who saw conspiracy in every shadow. To the powers that be, the audacity of a young and innovative filmmaker taking on one of the most powerful men in media, subtly challenging the status quo, was irritating to them. In doing what he did, Orson Welles unwittingly placed himself on the radar of anti-communists who viewed any form of dissent with suspicion. While Welles may not have been openly blacklisted, he certainly navigated a career filled with political undercurrents. His innovative spirit and uncompromising vision sometimes brought him into the crosshairs of those who believed he treaded a dangerous path. In the end, his career was twice as difficult as it ought to be, and it was never really the same again. Dalton Trumbo. His story is nothing short of a Hollywood legend, and yet it's a tale etched in the darkest corners of the industry. Being a talented person with strong political views got him into trouble in the industry. As one of the most notorious members of the Hollywood 10, he became the embodiment of the blacklisting era and one of its most tragic figures. Trumbo's defiance in the face of the House Un-American Activities Committee, or HUAC, is the stuff of cinematic drama. When summoned to testify or betray his colleagues, he chose neither path. The result was a bitter exile from the industry he loved, a punishment for his refusal to compromise his principles. For years, he was denied the opportunity to directly contribute to the art form he cherished. But here's where the intrigue deepens. Dalton Trumbo, a name that had once been synonymous with screenwriting brilliance, found a way to defy the blacklist in secret. Under pseudonyms, he continued to craft some of his finest work. It's almost as if he was writing under the cloak of night, a hidden figure in the world of cinema. One of the most astonishing chapters of his mysterious career was his role in crafting the screenplay for Stanley Kubrick's epic classic, Spartacus. A film that would go on to become a monumental part of Hollywood history had the unseen hand of Trumbo guiding its words. It's a testament to his indomitable spirit and the enduring power of his talent. Even though exiled from the Hollywood limelight, Trumbo's writing prowess was in demand. In hushed tones and secret meetings, he was called upon to contribute his genius to various projects. His pen remained mightier than the blacklist that sought to silence him. Bertolt Brecht, a luminary of European theater, brought his distinctive voice to Hollywood with aspirations of leaving an indelible mark on the silver screen. However, his venture into the world of cinema would take a drastic and unwelcome turn, leaving a lingering shadow on his illustrious career. In 1947, Hollywood's studio system suddenly turned its back on Brecht. He was thrust into the tumultuous world of the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC. The mere mention of his name in the same breath as the HUAC sends shivers down the spine of many artists who endured those times. Initially, he, like many of his fellow artists, resisted the committee's demands. His refusal to testify reflected his defiance, his refusal to compromise his principles, even when faced with the unrelenting pressure of an industry that had once embraced him.
However, the weight of the political climate eventually wore him down, and Brecht reluctantly took the stand to testify. It was a decision that would forever change the course of his career and reputation. To some, he had seemingly betrayed the principles he had once held dear. The aftermath of his testimony was a double blow for Brecht. Not only was he blacklisted by the Hollywood studio system, but he was also ostracized by the very artistic community that had once celebrated his brilliance. To them, his testimony was a betrayal, a concession to a system that had sought to silence dissenting voices. With his Hollywood dream shattered and his reputation tarnished, Brecht returned to Europe, where he lived out his remaining days. The man who had once been a beacon of artistic innovation found himself doing very little of the work that had made him famous. Lee Grant. His fate was a vivid illustration of the unpredictable and often unforgiving nature of the blacklist era. She was a young actress on the precipice of stardom when she garnered an Oscar nomination for her role in Detective Story. Her future seemed as bright as the Hollywood lights, but her outspoken criticism of the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, abruptly derailed her trajectory. In a swift and devastating turn of events, Grant found herself blacklisted. It was as if the rug had been pulled from beneath her feet. The vibrant promise of her career came crashing down, and her dreams of Hollywood stardom were seemingly extinguished. However, Lee Grant was not one to be easily defeated. She displayed remarkable resilience and determination. After a decade in the shadows of the blacklist, she made a triumphant return to acting. But what makes her story even more intriguing is how she transformed her career. Grant transitioned into documentary filmmaking, carving a niche for herself in a realm that allowed her to express her creativity and convictions. Yet the question lingers, what could have been had she not been blacklisted for those 12 long years? Even Lee Grant herself hinted at the heavy toll the blacklist had taken on her career. She acknowledged that starting over when Hollywood stars were already in descent was no small feat. The lost time, the missed opportunities, and Lee Grant's Hollywood journey is a vivid illustration of the unpredictable and often unforgiving nature of the blacklist era. Lee Grant's story is yet another clear example of how the blacklist era could stall or redirect careers, but it also underscores the enduring spirit of artists who refuse to be silenced. Her journey, marked by both hardship and resilience, showed that even in the face of adversity, talent and determination can triumph over political adversity. Charlie Chaplin. He was the comedic genius who had already left an indelible mark on Hollywood, but then he found himself at a crossroads in the 1950s when his career was in its twilight years, and he had already gifted the world with some of the greatest films ever made. But it was during this period that he was unexpectedly called before the House Un-American Activities Committee, a pivotal moment that would shape the final act of his career. Chaplin, with his trademark aloofness, faced the committee. He didn't bend to their demands or expectations. Instead, he maintained that he was first and foremost a filmmaker, not a political activist. He was a man who had entertained the masses with his iconic tramp character, not one who sought to influence the world through political means. Yet, despite his nonchalant demeanor, the consequences of his encounter with the HUAC were far-reaching. Chaplin, a British-born actor and director who had called the United States home for years, was suddenly confronted with an unwelcome ultimatum. The moment he returned to the U.S., he would be arrested immediately. It was a harsh sentence for a man who had contributed so much to the world of cinema. The exile that followed forced Chaplin to remain in his home nation, away from the Hollywood lights where he had once shone so brightly. The possibility of more comedy magic on the silver screen in his final years was forever lost. And even though he was already successful up till that point, he couldn't go farther than that anymore. It became a clog in the wheel of his career progress. Dashiell Hammett, the literary luminary whose words breathed life into the world of film noir, was a master of his craft. His stories, drenched in dark intrigue and suspense, became the foundation for some of Hollywood's most iconic films, including the Humphrey Bogart classic, The Maltese Falcon. Hammett's influence extended beyond the written word. He even lent his talents to penning screenplays. Yet Hammett's illustrious career took a tumultuous turn, one marked by the political turmoil of the era.
His affiliations with certain political groups and his willingness to stand by his convictions became a double-edged sword. It was this allegiance that drew the attention of the House Un-American Activities Committee. In 1953, Hammett found himself in the unsettling position of testifying before the HUAC. The ramifications were swift and severe. Hollywood, the same industry that had celebrated his work, turned its back on him. The blacklist loomed over him, darkening his prospects and casting a long shadow over his career. Hammett's descent into poverty in the later years of his life was a stark reminder of the price he paid for his beliefs and his uncompromising stance in the face of political pressure. The man who had once stood at the pinnacle of success as a writer was now a casualty of the blacklist, left to grapple with the harsh consequences of a political climate that stifled artistic expression. Ring Lardner Jr. In the heart of the tumultuous era known as the Hollywood Blacklist, a group of defiant individuals did the unthinkable by boldly airing their political opinions, even if it landed them in hot water. Among these courageous non-cooperators, one figure shone brightly: Ring Lardner Jr., a screenwriter of exceptional renown whose career would be forever altered by his unwavering commitment to principle. In the glittering realm of cinema, Lardner had crafted his own legend. His name had become synonymous with quality, his words breathing life into stories that captivated audiences. The pinnacle of success in the world of screenwriting seemed within his grasp. However, destiny had a different plan, one marked by a defining moment that would haunt and shape his legacy. Summoned before the infamous House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, Lardner faced a decision that would define him. He refused to yield, steadfastly opposing the committee's demands. His defiance was palpable, either through his refusal to testify or his answers that defied the committee's expectations. It was a choice that would seal his fate, forever altering the course of his life. The consequences were swift and harsh. Lardner found himself in the grim throes of imprisonment, the price of his unwavering spirit. A darker chapter had never been written, and many would have crumbled under such duress. But Lardner's resilience, a testament to his indomitable will, would not be extinguished. Then, in a triumphant return, the spotlight briefly found its way back to Lardner in 1970. His screenplay for the iconic Mass *H granted him a glimmer of the success he had once enjoyed. It was a moment of redemption, a return to the artistic heights he had once scaled. However, the zenith of his career that existed before the stand against the HUAC proved elusive. Ring Lardner Jr.'s story shows the enduring power of conviction and the profound sacrifices individuals made during the politically charged climate of the blacklist era. Jane Fonda: it is one thing to be a great actress, it is another to be a dogged and defiant personality off-screen, to be someone who uses her platform and fame to push positive change, and Fonda was fond of speaking up about things that mattered to her. But she may not even have discovered that part of her when she was giving brilliant performances on screen. Producers and directors loved her as she would always deliver on her roles. But then came the tumultuous 1960s and the Vietnam War, a conflict that would forever alter the course of Fonda's career. The actress, known for her beauty and grace, transformed into an outspoken activist against the war. Her stand, though principled, would prove to be a divisive and polarizing one. Journeying into the world of activism was a bold move. She used her fame and influence to voice vehement opposition to a war that had fractured the nation. Her controversial visit to North Vietnam, where she was photographed sitting on an anti-aircraft gun, became an enduring image of protest. It was a stark act of defiance against her own country's involvement in the war. At first, the support for Fonda's political stance was evident. She was hailed as a champion of the anti-war movement, a voice of the people. But as the war dragged on and her actions grew more controversial, the tides began to turn. Her image, once one of Hollywood's brightest stars, began to tarnish. The backlash was swift and severe. Some saw her actions as unpatriotic, a betrayal of her own nation's troops. Fonda's brave stand became a contentious point in the national discourse, with critics labeling her Hanoi Jane. Her public persona was under siege, and Hollywood, an industry that had once embraced her, started to withdraw its support. Roles in the entertainment industry became increasingly elusive. Casting directors and producers, wary of the controversy surrounding Fonda, hesitated to offer her the opportunities she had once enjoyed. The studios, like the public, were divided, and her career began to wane. As the war came to an end, Fonda's Hollywood journey was in tatters. The roles that had once been plentiful were now scarce, and the support that had once been unwavering had eroded. Her career, once full of promise and acclaim, had been forever altered by her principled stand against the Vietnam War. But in the end, was Jane affected? Of course she was. But did she care? Absolutely not. She knew that it was better to be brave and defiant in the face of oppression than to cower behind it. The Hollywood star who had once shone so brightly found themselves in the shadows, their careers forever changed by her unwavering commitment to their beliefs. Roseanne Barr. Brash, fearless, funny, sarcastic, and beautiful. These are not the typical features you'd find in a Hollywood star in the late 1980s, but Roseanne was not just any Hollywood star, she was a different version. In the late 1980s, Roseanne Barr, a brash and fearless comedian, emerged as a promising talent in the world of stand-up comedy. Her humor, a unique blend of sarcasm and wit, resonated with audiences. It was this appeal that paved the way for her own sitcom, Roseanne, which premiered in 1988. Roseanne was a groundbreaking show in many ways. It was a gritty, working-class family sitcom that delved into real-life issues, reflecting the struggles of everyday Americans. The show was a massive hit, and Roseanne Barr herself became a household name. For years, her career flourished, and her sitcom was a celebrated staple of American television. However, as the years went on, Barr's public persona began to change. Her political beliefs and outspoken nature took center stage. She became an ardent supporter of Donald Trump, which placed her in a political landscape that was increasingly polarized. Her controversial tweets and statements on social media were met with both support and condemnation. The tipping point came in 2018 when Barr posted a particularly offensive tweet that was deemed racist and offensive. The backlash was swift and severe. Her show, a revival of Roseanne, was canceled by ABC, the network that had once celebrated her as a star. The decision to pull the plug on the show was as much a matter of principle as it was a business move. Networks and sponsors were unwilling to associate with such controversy. In the end, Roseanne Barr's transformation from a beloved comedian and actress into a controversial political figure had significant consequences for her career. Her show, once a symbol of working-class America, was abruptly canceled due to the political controversy she had courted. The fallout was a vivid reminder that in the world of entertainment, even the most successful careers can be irrevocably altered by one's political beliefs and public behavior. Roseanne Barr's story is one of stark contrasts, marked by the meteoric rise of her sitcom, only to be brought crashing down by her controversial political stance. It serves as a poignant example of the interplay between celebrity, politics, and the consequences that can befall those who court controversy. From the Hollywood 10 to Jane Fonda and Roseanne Barr, each represents a unique chapter in the saga of careers derailed by politics. The Hollywood 10, led by figures like Dalton Trumbo and Ring Lardner Jr., chose defiance over compliance, enduring the harrowing consequences of blacklisting to safeguard their principles. As you might already imagine, this is no small feat. In the golden days of Hollywood, breaking into the industry was twice as hard as it is today. Therefore, every actor, writer, or producer did their best not to jeopardize what they had going. But in the face of their principles being tested, the Hollywood 10 stood their ground, knowing fully well it could well end their careers. There is a lot to learn from their stories. In the end, this all goes to show that we might have seen their entertainment side on the silver screen, but behind the curtains, they were dogged individuals who hold their thoughts and opinions highly. We can see that some of them were activists, others held strong political opinions, a far cry from what the world thought of them. However, these people may have had their lives ruined due to politics and their unwavering determination to stand their ground. Giovanni Jackson, Daddy's Girl. Hollywood always had shining stars, but beneath the surface lies a darker side, a history marked by manipulation, betrayal, and cruelty. Some actresses didn't just play villains on screen.
They brought their ruthlessness into real life. From feuds that destroyed careers to schemes that went far beyond the cameras, their actions weren't just scandalous, they were downright chilling. But who were these women, and what made them cross the line? Norma Shearer. She was a stunning, poised actress at the top of her game in the 1930s, but with a little secret weapon up her sleeve: her husband, Irving Thalberg, the head honcho of MGM, the most powerful studio at the time. Being married to the boy wonder of Hollywood meant Norma wasn't just any actress. She practically had a direct line to the casting couch, and not in the way you'd think. Here's where it gets juicy. Norma was accused of using her marital connection to snag roles that other actresses were gunning for, sometimes ruthlessly. Take Joan Crawford, for instance. She and Norma were in a not-so-subtle battle for the spotlight. Joan once said, "How can I compete with Norma? She sleeps with the boss." It wasn't just Joan, though. Myrna Loy, another MGM star, also felt the sting of Norma's influence. Loy believed she lost roles because Norma had first dibs on the juiciest scripts. Norma wasn't just sitting around waiting for opportunities to fall into her lap, though. Oh no, she hustled. She even went so far as to commission provocative photos of herself to prove she could handle sexier, edgier roles like the lead in The Divorcee, a part that won her an Oscar. That move was bold, but it didn't win her many friends. Other actresses saw it as her playing dirty, using her privilege and connections to bulldoze her way to the top. And here's the kicker: Norma wasn't apologetic about any of it. She knew the power she had, and she used it shamelessly. To her, it was survival in a cutthroat industry. But to those on the losing end, like Joan and Myrna, it looked more like sabotage. Norma's career eventually faded, but her reputation as a savvy and selfish player in Hollywood's golden era is still part of her legacy. Was she a villain, or just a smart woman making the most of her circumstances? Depends on how you look at it. Either way, she left her mark, and not everyone was happy about it. Mae West. When you hear her name, you think of Hollywood's original queen of sass and self-promotion. Mae wasn't just a star, she was a force of nature, strutting through the entertainment world like she owned it. And honestly, she kinda did. But here's the thing. While Mae was bold, brilliant, and completely unforgettable, she had a way of making everything revolve around one person: Mae West. Mae was all about Mae, and she didn't care who got overshadowed along the way. In interviews, she'd dominate the conversation with her razor-sharp wit and trademark double entendres, barely giving anyone else a chance to shine. Co-stars, directors, they were just supporting characters in the Mae West show. She once said, "I never loved anybody as much as I loved myself." And let me tell you, she lived by that motto. On set, Mae insisted on having complete control over her lines, her wardrobe, and even how her scenes were shot. Directors found her exhausting, and co-stars often complained they were reduced to mere props. One infamous story involves a young Cary Grant, who got his big break in She Done Him Wrong because Mae thought he was hot. She literally plucked him out of obscurity and made him her leading man, but only because he made her look good. Mae even wrote most of her own scripts, which sounds impressive until you realize they were mostly vehicles for her to deliver one-liners and look fabulous. If a scene wasn't all about her, she'd either rewrite it or refuse to shoot it. Her co-stars? They were lucky if they got a word in edgewise. But here's the thing about Mae. She didn't care if people thought she was selfish. In fact, she leaned into it. She famously said, "I'm not afraid of criticism. I gave up that fear long ago." To Mae, being selfish wasn't a flaw. It was a survival strategy in an industry that chews people up and spits them out. So, love her or hate her, Mae West made Hollywood play by her rules. Was she selfish? Absolutely. But she was also a trailblazer, proving that a woman could run the show and own it without apologizing for a second. Marilyn Monroe. She had the looks, the charm, and that breathy voice that made her an icon, but behind all the glamour was a woman who didn't always play nice. Sure, Marilyn seemed like the sweet, shy girl next door, but in reality, she could be manipulative, selfish, and frustrating to deal with. Marilyn had a way of making everything about her, especially when it came to relationships. She charmed men with ease, but many of them, from Joe DiMaggio to Arthur Miller, felt like they were used as stepping stones or props to maintain her image. Marilyn craved adoration, and if she wasn't the center of attention, she'd find a way to turn the spotlight back on herself. She had a knack for keeping people hooked on her vulnerability, but some insiders felt it was all part of her act, a way to control those around her. On set, Marilyn's behavior drove directors and co-stars up the wall. She was notoriously late, sometimes by hours, leaving entire crews waiting while she finished getting ready or dealt with her personal dramas. Directors like Billy Wilder, who worked with her on Some Like It Hot, called her a nightmare to work with, even if the results were worth it. Studio executives lost money because of her delays, and she'd show up unprepared, forgetting her lines and making scenes take twice as long to shoot. What's wild is that Marilyn's antics weren't always accidental. Some believed she showed up late or caused chaos on purpose just to keep everyone off balance and ensure she remained the most important person in the room. She once said, "If I'd observed all the rules, I'd never have got anywhere." And honestly, that tells you everything you need to know. Still, Marilyn's charm was her secret weapon. Even when she upset people, they couldn't stay mad for long. She knew how to win people over with a pout or a laugh, and she leaned into that power whenever it suited her. Was she selfish? Probably. But in her world, where everyone wanted a piece of her, maybe it was the only way she knew how to survive. Lana Turner. She was known as the ultimate Hollywood glamour queen, famous for her beauty, charisma, and string of headline-grabbing romances. But beneath the shimmering exterior, Lana's personal life was a whirlwind of drama and questionable priorities, especially when it came to her role as a mother. Her focus on fame, love, and maintaining her image often left her daughter, Cheryl Crane, feeling like an afterthought in her life. Lana's love life was a tabloid dream, or nightmare, depending on how you look at it. She married 8 times to 7 different men, and each relationship seemed more chaotic than the last. Her constant search for love and validation often overshadowed her responsibilities as a mother. Cheryl, her only child, grew up in the middle of this storm, frequently shuffled to the side as Lana pursued her next romance or career move. The most infamous chapter of Lana's life, and the one that put her relationship with Cheryl under a microscope, was the demise of her abusive boyfriend, Johnny Stompanato, in 1958. Stompanato was a mobster who had been physically and emotionally abusive to Lana. One night, during a particularly violent argument between Lana and Johnny, 14-year-old Cheryl intervened. She grabbed a knife and stabbed Stompanato to protect her mother. The incident was ruled justifiable homicide, but it threw Cheryl into the spotlight and left her emotionally scarred. Many people blamed Lana for exposing Cheryl to such a toxic environment in the first place. Critics said Lana's pattern of prioritizing her own happiness, especially in her choice of volatile, dangerous men, put her daughter in harm's way. Cheryl later revealed that she felt neglected and isolated, living in the shadow of her mother's glamorous yet chaotic life. She described how Lana's obsession with her public image often left her feeling like an accessory, not a priority. Even after the Stompanato tragedy, Lana continued to focus on maintaining her movie star persona, often at the expense of her relationship with Cheryl. Their mother-daughter bond remained strained for years, with Cheryl struggling to find her own identity outside of Lana's shadow. Lana's story is a complex one. On the one hand, she was a woman navigating a male-dominated industry, doing whatever it took to stay on top. On the other hand, her relentless pursuit of fame and love left behind a trail of emotional wreckage, with her daughter paying the steepest price. It's a classic case of Hollywood glamour hiding a much darker reality underneath. Gloria Swanson. This woman wasn't just a Hollywood actress. She was a powerhouse. In the silent film era, she ruled the screen with her dramatic flair, extravagant wardrobe, and larger-than-life persona. But behind all of that, Swanson had a reputation for doing whatever it took to get ahead, even if it meant stepping on a few toes or breaking hearts along the way. Swanson's ambition was unmatched. She wasn't content with being just another actress. She wanted to be the star. And she wasn't afraid to manipulate the people around her to climb higher. One of the most talked about examples was her relationship with Joseph P. Kennedy, father of future President John F. Kennedy. Kennedy wasn't just her lover. He was also her financier, helping to fund her lavish lifestyle and her failing production company. Swanson benefited greatly from the relationship, but when the financial fallout came, Kennedy walked away relatively unscathed, while Swanson's career took a hit. Critics argue she used Kennedy as much as he used her, making their affair a textbook case of mutual manipulation. Professionally, Swanson had a way of alienating people. She was fiercely independent and demanded creative control over her projects, which wasn't common for actresses at the time. While her drive was admirable, it didn't win her many friends in the industry. Directors and producers often found her difficult to work with because she insisted on doing things her way, even if it caused friction on set. Her personal life was just as messy. Swanson married 6 times, and her relationships often ended in scandal or bitterness. She seemed to view her partners as stepping stones, prioritizing her career over building lasting connections. Her third husband, French aristocrat Henri de la Falaise, was a particularly dramatic case. Their marriage gave her an air of European sophistication that elevated her status, but it ended when the glitter faded, leaving yet another broken tie in her wake. By the time she starred in Sunset Boulevard, her iconic comeback role that mirrored her own life, Swanson's reputation as a self-serving, fiercely ambitious star had already been cemented. In many ways, her performance as Norma Desmond was more autobiographical than anyone realized. Was Gloria Swanson a villain? Not exactly. She was a woman in an unforgiving industry, fighting for control of her destiny. But her relentless ambition often left others hurt, discarded, or disillusioned. To some, she was a trailblazer. To others, she was simply ruthless. Tallulah Bankhead. If you thought the luxurious lifestyle and fame of old Hollywood was all about prim and proper behavior, Bankhead proved you wrong. She was loud, brash, and lived life on her own terms, often at the expense of everyone around her. Bankhead's reputation for wild behavior was legendary. She was known for her heavy drinking, drug use, and a string of fiery affairs that were as scandalous as they were public. But what really set her apart was her complete lack of a filter. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind, and when she did, it was often sharp, biting, and at times cruel. Her sharp tongue was both a weapon and a shield. Bankhead had a knack for making ruthless, cutting remarks about everyone, from co-stars to directors and even her own family. She once told a fellow actress, "I don't care what you do as long as you don't do it in the street and frighten the horses," a line that perfectly summed up her unapologetic nature. She would go out of her way to make people uncomfortable, whether by mocking others' looks or questioning their intelligence. It wasn't that she was insecure. Quite the opposite. She just didn't care about anyone else's feelings. Her cruelty extended beyond just words, too. On set, Bankhead was known for being difficult to work with, often causing trouble during shoots. Directors found her hard to control, and she frequently showed up late or in no condition to work, thanks to her partying habits. Yet somehow, she managed to still get roles, largely due to her outrageous charm and undeniable screen presence. Bankhead's personal life was just as turbulent. She had multiple love affairs, some with famous men and women, but never seemed to form lasting connections. She used people as disposable objects to satisfy her own needs, whether it was attention, companionship, or just a wild night of fun. For her, relationships were more about entertainment than genuine emotional connection. Yet, despite all the chaos, Tallulah Bankhead became a cult figure, beloved by some for her outlandishness and celebrated for living a life that most could only dream of in terms of freedom, albeit with consequences. She didn't give a damn about social norms or expectations, and while many found her antics tiresome or even cruel, others admired her boldness. She lived life on her own terms, and damn the consequences. In the end, Tallulah Bankhead was more than just a Hollywood star. She was a chaotic force of nature, a person who didn't care what others thought, and who would rather burn bridges than play nice. In a way, she was the perfect reflection of an industry that often valued the appearance of perfection over the messiness of real life. Barbara Stanwyck. She had a reputation for being a master at playing tough, no-nonsense characters on screen, but it seems she took a bit of that tough exterior into her personal life, too. Stanwyck was all about self-preservation. She knew how to build a career and maintain an image, but she also had a knack for cutting ties with people when they no longer served her interests. She wasn't the type to keep people around just for the sake of it, whether it was friends, co-stars, or even family. If someone no longer had a role in her life, they were quickly shown the door. There was no room for sentimentality in Stanwyck's world. Her fiercely private nature didn't help her popularity in Hollywood circles either. While other stars might bask in the spotlight and engage with their colleagues or fans, Stanwyck kept her distance, often keeping to herself or her closest circle of people. She had a strict keep your business to yourself policy, which sometimes made her seem aloof, standoffish, or even unapproachable. This detached nature didn't endear her to some of her co-stars or those working closely with her. Despite being a beloved and respected actress, she often isolated herself on set, leaving others to feel like they didn't have a real connection with her. There was a certain coldness to her, especially when it came to personal relationships. She had 2 marriages, both of which ended badly. The first to actor Frank Fay was rocky, marked by infidelity and tension, and after their divorce, Stanwyck's relationships with men were often seen as transactional rather than emotionally fulfilling. Stanwyck's approach to relationships wasn't just about keeping things private, it was about control. She was known for playing the role of the hard-nosed, calculating woman in many of her films, but it seems that role extended off-screen too. When she felt someone was a threat to her career, her personal space, or her privacy, they were quickly cut off. It wasn't about being mean. It was about protecting her territory, her image, and her career from anything that might cause her harm. Though many admired her for her unmatched acting talent, her emotional detachment and self-preserving nature left a trail of broken ties in Hollywood. While she was deeply respected for her work and known for being a professional on set, she wasn't the kind of person who would stick around for the long haul when it came to friendships or anything that didn't directly benefit her. Stanwyck's legacy is filled with glowing accolades for her skill, but her personal story is one of cold pragmatism and calculated decisions. She wasn't afraid to burn bridges if it meant advancing herself or protecting her space. Bette Davis. She was raw, unapologetic, and fiercely determined to maintain her star status no matter what it took. But in her relentless pursuit of stardom, Davis wasn't exactly concerned with how many bridges she burned or who got offended along the way. In fact, she seemed to almost revel in her reputation for being tough, demanding, and sometimes downright cruel. Her famous feuds and sharp tongue were as much a part of her legacy as her Oscar-winning performances. One of the most legendary and most vicious rivalries in Hollywood history was the one between Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. Their feud, which started in the 1930s, reached new heights when they were cast as the leads in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane in 1962. The two actresses couldn't have been more different, and their animosity went beyond mere professional competition. Davis once said, "She's a bitch, but she's my bitch." That pretty much sums up the animosity between them. There was no love lost, only cold, calculated contempt. The stories from the set of Baby Jane are legendary. They would constantly try to one-up each other, sabotaging each other's scenes and playing psychological games behind the scenes. It wasn't just on-screen drama. It was real, personal, and filled with spite. But Davis didn't reserve her sharp tongue for just one person. She was known for cutting people down, colleagues or not. She didn't care if she offended anyone with her direct and often hurtful criticisms. Directors, co-stars, and even studio heads could find themselves on the receiving end of Davis's biting remarks. She was a woman who demanded perfection from herself and everyone around her, and if you didn't measure up, you were fair game. If you couldn't take the heat, you were quickly discarded. It wasn't about making friends for Betty. It was about making sure she stayed on top, no matter the cost. Davis's famous outbursts and public criticism didn't make her popular in Hollywood, but they certainly kept her in the conversation. She was known for her bluntness and her refusal to play the game the way the studio system wanted her to. While many stars of the time were busy towing the line and maintaining a squeaky clean image, Davis made it clear she was going to do things her way, even if it meant stepping on a few toes along the way. Her story is one of fierce determination, but also one marked by a trail of offended colleagues and damaged relationships. Davis wasn't afraid to ruffle feathers if it meant maintaining her status as one of the greatest actresses in Hollywood, and while that made her unforgettable, it also made her a polarizing figure. In the end, Bette Davis proved that in the cutthroat world of Hollywood, it wasn't enough to just be talented. You also had to be willing to fight, even if it meant losing a few friends along the way. Joan Crawford. Here's what you may not know. Joan Crawford is one of the most infamous stars in Hollywood history, but not for the reasons most would expect. While she was adored by millions for her glamorous roles behind closed doors, Crawford's life was a storm of manipulation, control, and a relentless desire for success at any cost. Crawford was known for putting her career above everything else, family included. She often seemed to view her relationships, especially with her children, as mere extensions of her public image, which she worked tirelessly to maintain. But her personal life was far from ideal, and it wasn't long before rumors began to swirl about how she treated her family, especially her children. In her later years, her adopted daughter, Christina Crawford, famously penned a memoir called Mommy Dearest, in which she accused Joan of severe emotional and physical abuse. The book portrayed Crawford as a cold, controlling mother, and the revelations were shocking. Christina described Joan as a woman who expected perfection, punished her children for minor transgressions, and was a tyrant behind closed doors. If you remember Baywatch of 1997, then you're surely a fan of Carmen Electra. There's beauty, grace, and talent associated with the Hollywood star, but there's more to her than most of her fans know. The question is, how did a little girl from Cincinnati become such an amazing sensation? What you'll find when you take a trip down her life and memories will certainly blow your mind. Let's start from the very beginning. How it all began. Now, this is not your typical rags to riches tale.
Ooh, I like it muy macho. Now.
It all begins in the unassuming city of Cincinnati, Ohio. She wasn't born the Carmen Electra we know her as today. No. Her name was Tara Lee Patrick. She grew up in a place where the vibe was a far cry from what Hollywood has to offer. Let's face it, at the time Cincinnati was known for a lot of things. Great chili, baseball, maybe a bit of that Midwestern charm.
Too Midwest, what the hell does that even mean?
But it's not exactly the hot spot for aspiring stars. Yet, there she was, dreaming big and dancing her heart out. From a young age, Tara had the itch to perform. Her mom was a singer, and she saw firsthand what it meant to put your soul into the art. From watching her mother, she too wanted to perform. She desired to be in the spotlight and the whole world bowing to her talent. But life wasn't always a smooth ride. It came with its own bumps and heartbreaks. Her father was a guitarist and there was music at home, but they weren't rolling in cash. That struggle, that grind shaped her into a tough cookie, ready to face whatever came her way. But here's where things get wild, because no one could have seen what happened next. By a stroke of fate, or perhaps luck, her life changed dramatically. The leap from Cincinnati to Hollywood was a dream she nurtured, but let's be real, it's like wishing to be struck by lightning. Only this time, lightning had a name: Prince. Prince was her one-way ticket to Hollywood, and here's how it all happened. She was in Los Angeles trying to make it as a dancer, doing whatever gigs came her way when she met this guy who happened to be friends with Prince. He thought she had a spark, and he set up a meeting. Now, imagine being in her shoes, fresh from Ohio, and suddenly she's face to face with Prince, the icon. He had an eye for talent and saw something in this spunky girl from Cincinnati. He decided to give her a shot, which is already mind-blowing, right? But Prince being Prince, he had to make it his own. And this is where the story gets its biggest twist. Prince didn't just want to mentor Tara, he wanted to reinvent her. He looked at her and decided that Tara Lee Patrick just wasn't going to cut it. He believed she needed a name that had more punch, more star power, so he dubbed her Carmen Electra. One day you're a dancer scraping by in LA, and the next, the legendary Prince is not only taking you under his wing, but giving you a brand new name like some kind of pop culture fairy godmother. He basically said, "Tara's nice, but Carmen Electra, that is a star." And just like that, Carmen Electra was born. But Prince didn't stop there. He also signed her to his label, and they started working on an album together. It wasn't exactly a chart topper, but it was a huge leap for someone who was just dreaming of making it. For her, this was the start of a wild ride into the world of showbiz. It's like Prince opened a door to a new universe for her, and she had no idea what kind of roller coaster she was stepping onto. So, in the blink of an eye, a small-town girl with a big dream suddenly found herself in the orbit of a superstar. She went from Tara Lee Patrick to Carmen Electra with just a little nudge from one of the most enigmatic figures in music history. And that moment, meeting Prince, was like the universe hitting shuffle and landing on a track that would change her life forever. Her launch to fame. Now we get to the part that most people remember, the Baywatch years, when Carmen Electra became a full-blown, larger-than-life sensation. If you think of the 90s, there's no way you can skip over the cultural behemoth that was Baywatch. I mean, this show had it all. Slow-motion beach runs, red swimsuits, and those iconic lifeguard towers. And right there in the middle of it all was Carmen Electra. But let's rewind a bit. Before Baywatch, Carmen had already dipped her toes into the Hollywood pool. It's 1996. And Carmen is still finding her way in the entertainment world. She's already got some buzz around her thanks to her connection with Prince, but she hasn't quite reached that superstar status yet. And then she makes a bold move. She poses for Playboy. Now, this wasn't just any photo shoot, it was a full nude pictorial, and it put her right in the spotlight. At that time, posing for Playboy was a big deal. It was a statement, a way of saying, "I'm here, I'm confident, and I'm not afraid to take risks." It was daring, especially for someone still trying to find her place in Hollywood. And get this, people couldn't get enough. That first shoot was such a hit that she ended up being featured in Playboy 4 more times over the years. What's wild is that these Playboy shoots did more than just put her in front of a camera. They transformed her into a pop culture symbol. It helped her get noticed in a different way, so people started paying more attention, and suddenly, she was a name you couldn't ignore. It was a strategic move that worked out big time, even if it came with its share of controversy and judgment. With all that buzz, she packed her bags and headed straight for Los Angeles, ready to take her next big leap into acting. And she didn't waste any time. She made her film debut in this quirky little indie movie called American Vampire in 1997. Now, this wasn't some blockbuster hit, but it was the perfect chance for her to test out her acting chops and start showing Hollywood she was more than just a pretty face in a magazine. But in that same year, little did she know she was about to take a gig that would truly make her famous, Baywatch. In 1997, the show is already a massive global hit, watched by millions around the world. So, when Carmen joined the cast as Lonnie McKenzie, It was like the universe handed her a rocket ship to fame. This was no ordinary TV role. Baywatch was basically the Game of Thrones of its time, but with more bikinis and beach rescues. Her job wasn't just about looking good on the beach, though that was a big part of the allure. Her role was about embodying a kind of glamorous, sun-soaked fantasy. She had the look, the confidence, and that unmistakable energy that made her an instant standout on the show. When she ran down that beach, all eyes were on her. And yeah, there were a lot of slow-motion shots that made sure of that. And let's talk about the cultural impact here. Carmen's time on Baywatch turned her into an icon, not just in America, but around the world. It's wild to think about, but Baywatch was syndicated in over 140 countries. That meant that in places as far away as Germany, Brazil, and Japan, people knew her face. She was suddenly part of that very small club of stars whose image was recognizable anywhere on the planet. Being a Baywatch lifeguard wasn't just a TV role. It was a passport to global stardom. Carmen became a staple of that 90s fantasy. Sun, sand, and saving the day, all with perfect hair and a smile. But here's the part that most people don't know, what it took to maintain that image behind the scenes. It's easy to look at those episodes and think, she's living the dream. And sure, she was in some ways. But Hollywood is tough, and the pressure to stay perfect under the spotlight is no joke. Imagine being in a role where millions of people scrutinize how you look in every single episode. Any slight change in appearance would spark rumors and tabloid stories. The constant pressure to stay fit, to keep up with the demands of being a sex symbol. It's like being on a treadmill that never slows down. She's opened up about how that pressure affected her, how she constantly felt like she had to live up to this superhuman version of herself that everyone saw on TV. It's a different kind of tough, where you have to keep smiling and keep that upbeat vibe even when things are chaotic behind the scenes. And let's not forget, the 90s Hollywood scene could be brutal for women. The expectations were intense, and there wasn't much room for mistakes or even just being human. Yet, Carmen managed to turn those challenges into a kind of superpower. She knew what people expected from her, and she leaned into it, turning herself into this untouchable Baywatch bombshell. She made it look easy, even when it wasn't, and that's what made her such a captivating figure. But as there were highs in her life, so were there a lot of lows. The hefty challenges. This part of Carmen Electra's story is where things get really heavy. Fame, magazine covers, red carpets, none of that could prepare her for what life threw her way in 1998. It's the kind of tragedy that changes a person forever. Within the span of just 2 weeks, she lost both her mother and her sister. Her mother, Patricia, passed away from a brain tumor, and right after that, her sister Debbie died of a heart attack. It was like the ground had been ripped out from under her, and everything she knew and loved disappeared almost overnight. Imagine the heartbreak of losing the two people who know you best, who've been with you through every up and down. And it didn't just happen quietly behind the scenes. This was a time when Carmen was still very much in the public eye. She was known for her bubbly, carefree persona, but inside she was dealing with the kind of pain that would bring most of us to our knees. Grieving is hard enough on its own, but when you're in the spotlight, it's like you're expected to keep up appearances, to smile for the cameras when all you want to do is hide away and scream. Carmen herself has talked about how incredibly tough it was. She felt lost, alone, and like her world had just crumbled to pieces. But here's where her story gets even more real. She didn't just let that grief swallow her whole. She had moments of breaking down, of course, but she somehow found the strength to keep going. It's like she channeled all of that pain into this incredible inner resilience. She said in interviews that she had to learn how to let herself feel that grief instead of pretending it wasn't there. And as heartbreaking as it was, it made her realize just how strong she really was. For a while, work became her way of coping. She threw herself into her projects, into staying busy. But as anyone who's been through loss knows, that grief doesn't just disappear because you distract yourself. She had to go through the painful process of accepting what had happened, of figuring out who she was without her mother and sister in her life. What's incredible is that even in her most vulnerable moments, Carmen managed to turn her pain into a kind of strength. She became open about her loss, talking about it in interviews and sharing her story with fans. It was her way of connecting with people on a deeper level, and over time she started to bounce back. Not in a way that erased the pain, but in a way that honored it. It was like she took all that hurt and used it to build herself up again, piece by piece. She found ways to bring more positivity into her life, focusing on projects that made her happy and finding a sense of purpose beyond her roles on TV and in movies. It didn't happen overnight. Grief never really goes away. But she discovered that she had the strength to keep moving forward, to keep living fully, even when things felt impossible. The reinvention. Let's talk about one of the coolest parts of Carmen Electra's story, her ability to constantly reinvent herself. Carmen didn't just settle into one niche. She kept evolving, proving that she was way more than just a Baywatch babe. This is where we see her becoming a true icon of the 90s, the 2000s, and even today. First up, her MTV phase. After the Baywatch years, she jumped into hosting Singled Out, one of those gloriously over-the-top dating shows that only MTV could pull off in the 90s. This show was loud, ridiculous, and full of wild energy, and Carmen fit right in. She brought her own charm to the screen, making her the perfect match for the show's vibe. Plus, let's be honest, this era was peak MTV, with all the wild spring break specials, music videos, and celeb gossip. Carmen became the face of that scene, the girl who always knew where the party was, who could bring the fun and keep the energy high. It was a different kind of fame, but it was the kind that made her a household name for a whole new set of fans. But here's where things get really interesting. When the reality TV craze hit in the 2000s, Carmen wasn't afraid to dive in. She wasn't content with just being remembered as a 90s icon. She was ready to evolve again. That's when we saw her on The Surreal Life, a reality show that was like a big, strange cocktail of past-their-prime celebrities living together under one roof. And she didn't just show up and blend in. She embraced the chaos, had fun with it, and didn't take herself too seriously. She let her quirky, down-to-earth side show, and people loved it. It was like, hey, she's one of us. She's not afraid to make fun of herself or roll with the punches. And it wasn't just The Surreal Life. Carmen dabbled in all kinds of unexpected ventures that showed she was more than just a pretty face. She got into dancing and burlesque, bringing a little glam and sass to shows like the Pussycat Dolls. Think feathers, glitzy costumes, and some seriously bold moves. She wasn't afraid to take risks and try new things, even if it meant stepping outside of what people expected from her. And let's not forget those workout videos. Yes, Carmen Electra's aerobic striptease was a thing. And honestly, it's kind of genius. It's a mix of fitness and a little bit of cheeky fun, and it showed that she knew her audience. It was a playful twist on the whole exercise video craze, with a little bit of her own flavor thrown in. I mean, who else could make a workout routine feel like a dance party? But what really stands out about Carmen is how she's managed to keep her sense of humor through all of it. She's in on the joke. She knows the world remembers her for those iconic slow-motion beach runs, but she's also okay with laughing about it. She hasn't shied away from her past or tried to reinvent herself into something totally different. Instead, she's taken what people love about her and added new layers, embracing the weird twists of her career while staying true to who she is. Carmen's never really gone away. She's always found a way to stay in the mix, whether it's through a reality show, a fun throwback cameo, or just showing up on social media with that same carefree attitude. It's that ability to adapt and keep things light that has kept her around in a world where fame can be pretty fleeting. She's not just a nostalgia trip. She's someone who has rolled with every unexpected turn, made the best of it, and kept things interesting. And honestly, that's the kind of staying power that's hard to come by. More than a Hollywood symbol. Now for the wilder, more unexpected side of Carmen Electra's life, the stuff that goes beyond just being a sex symbol and pop culture icon. Sure, the world can't get enough of her stunning looks and that larger-than-life persona, but there's so much more to her than that. Take her charitable work, for example. Behind the glamorous exterior, Carmen has a huge heart. She's thrown her energy into causes that are close to her, like Head to Hollywood, a non-profit that supports brain tumor survivors. It makes sense, right? Remember, she went through the pain of losing her mom to a brain tumor, so she's out here trying to make life a little brighter for others going through something similar. And it doesn't stop there. She's also worked with Elevate Hope, which focuses on helping abused and abandoned kids, and the Hollyrod Foundation, providing support to those dealing with life-changing conditions like Parkinson's. It's like she's channeling all that empathy she's gathered from her own struggles into making a difference. Now, let's talk about some of the more offbeat moments in her career. Because with Carmen, there are plenty. Did you know she was a comic book model? Yep. She graced the covers of Razor and Ladies of London Night, showing that she was just as much a star in the world of graphic novels as she was on TV. And in the late 90s, she was the face of Max Factor, turning up in TV and print ads with that perfect camera-ready glow. She even became a spokesperson for men's hair color with Maxim, just another way she kept popping up in places you wouldn't expect. But here's where it gets really wild. In 2002, an extinct species of fly was named after her, Carmen Electra Chechisme. Why? Because of her splendid somal structure. Yes, you heard that right. And if you thought that was out there, just wait. Carmen also dipped into the world of wrestling, creating the Naked Women's Wrestling League in 2005, where she took on the role of commissioner. It was exactly what it sounds like. Part wrestling, part spectacle, and totally out of left field. But that's Carmen, always game to shake things up and try something new. Around the same time, she was the face of Ritz Camera Centers and even showed up in Taco Bell commercials.
Do you like my dress?
That'll do.
It's true. Taco Bell's big, tasty grilled stuffed burrito with double...
Basically, she was everywhere, always finding new ways to keep her name and face out there. Now, when you jump ahead to 2010, Carmen was still surprising people. She released a line of romance toys, which is honestly pretty on-brand for someone who's never been shy about embracing her sultry side. To promote them, she even appeared on the reality show The Spin Crowd, getting some PR magic to help bring her products to the spotlight. It was another example of her willingness to go wherever her interests and the business took her. But fame isn't always smooth sailing, right? Things were about to take a dramatic turn for her. In 2019, Carmen found herself in a legal battle when a strip club in Massachusetts, the Golden Banana, used her likeness on social media without her permission. She wasn't about to let that slide and joined forces with other celebs in taking legal action. It's a reminder that even after all these years, she's not one to back down when it comes to protecting her image. And then in 2020, she became a huge part of the cultural conversation again, thanks to The Last Dance, the docuseries about the Chicago Bulls. People were buzzing about her stories of her whirlwind romance with Dennis Rodman, which gave everyone a juicy look into their wild, unpredictable relationship. And get this, after her appearance on the show, searches for her name on a certain adult website skyrocketed to 1.7 million. Talk about staying relevant. And if you thought she'd slow down after that, think again. In 2022, Carmen took control of her own image in a brand new way by launching an OnlyFans account. For her, it wasn't just about the money or the buzz, it was about finally being able to call the shots and share her own creative vision. As she put it, I, for once, have this opportunity to be my own boss and have my own creative vision to share with my fans without someone standing over me. It's like a full circle moment, taking back ownership of her image after all those years of being seen through the lens of others. So, from charity work to comic books, from quirky business ventures to internet buzz, Carmen's story is one of constant reinvention. She's always finding new ways to surprise us, never content to be just one thing. That's what makes her so fascinating. She's always evolving, always finding a new way to remind the world that she's still here, still doing things her own way. For a good part of their lives, these legendary actresses have devoted themselves to the entertainment of the audience and left blood, sweat, and tears on their sets. Sadly, in the year 2024, some of them got snatched from the earth before their time.
It has been announced in the last few minutes that the famed actress, Dame Maggie Smith, has died.
Others lived a full life before passing away. But the one thing they all have in common is they left a huge mark on Earth and they will forever be remembered. Shannon Doherty. She was the ultimate 90s star, making waves as Brenda Walsh on Beverly Hills 90210, and her life had as much drama as her on-screen role, turning her into a tabloid sensation. However, in 2015, her story took a tough turn when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. After a brief remission, it came back in 2019, spreading to her brain. Despite her strength, this time, the fight was too much. On July 13, 2024, Shannon Doherty passed away at the age of 53, leaving behind her amazing work and a life well lived. Shelley Duvall. They call her the legend of horror. She had this captivating, almost otherworldly look that made her perfect for that. And on top of that, directors like Robert Altman couldn't get enough of her, and she played all kinds of roles, from a teen groupie in Nashville to the quirky Olive in Popeye. But it was her role in The Shining, facing off against Jack Nicholson, that turned her into a horror legend. Sadly, on July 11th, Shelley Duvall passed away from complications related to diabetes at the age of 75. Her impact on film is something that won't be forgotten anytime soon. Glynis Johns. She was a true star of both the stage and screen, with over 60 films and 30 plays under her belt. But most of us remember her as the feisty Mrs. Banks in Disney's Mary Poppins. Funny enough, she thought she'd landed the role of Poppins herself, so Walt Disney smoothed things over by giving her a standout moment with the unforgettable Sister Suffragette song. A decade later, her unique voice charmed Stephen Sondheim, who wrote Send in the Clowns just for her in the Broadway hit A Little Night Music, earning her a Tony Award. She also scored an Oscar nomination for The Sundowners, but on January 4, 2024, she passed away, though no cause of death was given. Cindy Morgan. You see, Morgan was a total 1980s icon. Her star shot up right from the start with her film debut as the gorgeous Lacey in the classic comedy Caddyshack. Just 2 years later, she scored another unforgettable role in Disney's Tron. She played Dr. Laura Baines in The Real World and Yori in The Game World, helping Jeff Bridges' character out of all kinds of digital trouble. Even though she kept acting in various roles throughout her career, including a stint on the soap opera Falcon Crest, people will always remember her for those two standout 80s hits. Her passing was reported on January 6, 2024, but she passed on December 30, 2023. So, to many of her fans, she passed in 2024. But again, the cause of her death wasn't shared. Gena Rowlands. These days, Gena Rowlands might be best known as the older version of Rachel McAdams' character in the beloved film The Notebook, but her story goes way back. She was a major force in Hollywood from the late 1960s through the 80s, earning respect and acclaim for her incredible talent. Her husband, John Cassavetes, played a huge role in her career, helping her become a muse for the American independent film movement. After making a name for herself on Broadway, she quickly transitioned to Hollywood in the late 50s. They collaborated on 10 films together, 2 of which earned her Oscar nominations: A Woman Under the Influence in 1974 and Gloria in 1980. Unfortunately, she passed away on August 14th after a battle with Alzheimer's. Catherine Crosby. She was an adored actress and the widow of the legendary Bing Crosby. Born in Texas in 1933, she launched her acting career as Catherine Grant in 1953, securing small roles in timeless films like Rear Window and Anatomy of a Murder. Her journey took a heartfelt twist when she met Bing while interviewing him for a newspaper column on the set of White Christmas. The two fell in love and married in 1957. But on September 20th, surrounded by her family, Catherine Crosby passed away at the age of 90 at her home in Hillsborough, California. Betty A. Bridges. She was a beloved actress known for her guest roles in iconic series like Good Times, Scrubs, and Hill Street Blues, but she passed away at the age of 83 on August 29th. She first captured attention with her unforgettable performance in the classic Good Times episode The Nude, where she starred alongside Carl Weathers in 1975. Over her impressive 40-year career, Betty shared the screen with big names like George Clooney, Lee Grant, and Red Fox in shows such as Dallas, The Bad News Bears, and of course Different Strokes, where she was also the mother of Todd Bridges. Later on, she established the Kane Bridge Academy, an acting school that helped nurture talents like Nia Long, Regina King, and Sana Lothan. Therefore, she will live on in the lives her academy will help change for the better. Rachel Lillis. She was the talented voice actress known for bringing to life beloved characters in anime, movies, and video games. Throughout her career, Rachel voiced characters in hit series like Your Lie in April, Berserk, Sonic X, and Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn, as well as in animated favorites like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Winx Club. Sadly, she passed away on August 10th after a brave fight with cancer at the age of 46. Fans will remember her as the voice of Misty and Jessie in Pokémon, but her talent and creative contributions will be deeply missed. Mitzi McCall. The talented comedian and actress charmed audiences for decades with her unforgettable performances. She notably shared the stage with the Beatles on The Ed Sullivan Show and played the memorable role of a dry cleaner's wife on Seinfeld. Throughout her career, Mitzi appeared in various beloved shows, including Silk Stockings, The Twilight Zone, and Roseanne. Sadly, she passed away on August 8th at the age of 93. Connie Chiume. This remarkable South African actress sadly passed away on August 6th at the age of 72 after battling an illness. Starting as a teacher in Johannesburg, she first made waves in 1989 with the hit TV series Ikolom Edwa Yadwa. However, global recognition came when she played the role as Zawavari, a leader in the Black Panther films, but her career spanned decades before that. Patty Yasutake. The talented actress, celebrated for her roles as Alyssa Ogawa in Star Trek and Fumi Nakai on Beef, passed away on August 5th at the age of 70 after a battle with cancer. She began her career at East West Players and made her film debut in Ron Howard's Gung Ho in 1986, later appearing in its sitcom sequel. Yasutake was a familiar face on TV, with guest spots on shows like Murphy Brown and Picket Fences, but she truly left her mark as Nurse Alyssa Ogawa in Star Trek, The Next Generation, and its subsequent films. Esta Terre-Blanche. The South African actress is best known for her role as Gillian Andruschi on All My Children. Born on January 7, 1973 in Rustenburg, South Africa, she first gained recognition after winning the Miss Teen South Africa title in 1991. She began her acting career in the popular drama Eagly, Place of Gold from 1992 to 1995 before moving to Los Angeles, where she landed the role of the spoiled Hungarian princess Gillian on All My Children. Her character initially stirred up trouble, but later became beloved for her romance with Ryan Lavery, played by Cameron Matheson. Sadly, she passed away on July 18th at the age of 51. Judy Belushi Pisano. She was an actress, producer, and widow of legendary comedian John Belushi. She first met John while they were both in high school in Wheaton, Illinois, and they married in 1973. As John's star soared through his work with the Second City comedy troupe and the debut cast of Saturday Night Live, Judy was working as a radio producer in New York City. She later appeared in uncredited roles in John's iconic films, Animal House and The Blues Brothers. Their marriage lasted until John's tragic overdose in 1982. Judy married Victor Pisano in 1990, but they divorced 2 decades later in 2010. She eventually passed away on the 5th of July at the age of 73. Keika Jabbar. A beloved cast member of the OWN reality show Love and Marriage, Huntsville. The series showcases the lives of 3 successful African-American couples as they work together to revitalize Huntsville, Alabama through their real estate venture, The Comeback Group. Kike joined the show last year alongside her cousin Letitia Scott, bringing her unique energy and perspective to the cast. She sadly passed away around July 2nd at the age of 42. The cause of death has not been publicly disclosed. Pat Haywood. Pat was a talented Scottish character actress who made her mark in Hollywood at 36 with her film debut as Olivia Hussey's caring nurse in Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet, 1968. Her performance earned her a BAFTA nomination for Best Supporting Actress. Born in Gretna Green, Scotland on August 1, 1931, Heywood started her career in theater before transitioning to the screen. She became known for her roles in films like Goodbye, Mr. Chips, 1969, and Whoever Slew Auntie Roo, 1971, as well as TV series like Lucky Feller and the BBC's Wuthering Heights. Her final role reunited her with Zeffirelli in the 1993 film Sparrow. Heywood passed away on June 26 at the age of 92. Joan Benedict. She was a versatile actress known for her roles on Candid Camera and General Hospital. Born in Brooklyn on July 21, 1927, she began her performance career as a dancer at just 7. After training at the Rome Opera Ballet, she studied acting with legends Robert Louis and Stella Adler. Benedict became a familiar face on TV, working with Alan Funt on Candid Camera and appearing on The Steve Allen Show, as well as shows like The Incredible Hulk and Days of Our Lives. She was married twice to actor John Myers and later to Rod Steiger, and had a relationship with actor Jeremy Slate. She passed away on June 24th at age 96 due to complications from a stroke, leaving behind a daughter and 2 granddaughters. Pat Colbert. The actress best known for her role as Dora May on Dallas passed away on June 23rd at 77. Colbert made appearances on several popular 80s TV shows, including Benson and the Fall Guy, and played Bill Cosby's wife in the 1987 comedy Leonard Part 6. Her most memorable role came in Dallas, where she portrayed Dora May, the hostess at the Oil Barons Club from 1983 to 1991, a key setting for the Ewing family's dramas. Betty Ann Reese. Known for her roles in The Unholy Rollers and Sugar Hill, Betty Ann began her screen career with a 1966 episode of Shane and quickly landed roles in films like The Cool Ones and Banning. Reese became a familiar face on TV, appearing in shows such as Adam 12, Mannix, Mod Squad, Policewoman, and The Streets of San Francisco. She also had film roles in Deathmaster and The Photographer. Her final role was as Molly Margot in The Incredible Hulk in 1978. She passed away on June 3rd at 81. Janice Page. Janice was a star of Hollywood's golden age with a career that spanned from the big screen to Broadway. She was known for roles in musicals like Silk Stockings and The Pajama Game. Born in Tacoma, Washington, Page started singing in local shows before moving to Los Angeles, where she was discovered at the Hollywood Canteen. Her career flourished with films like Romance on the High Seas, her own sitcom It's Always Jan, and stage performances in classics like Mame and Guys and Dolls. She continued performing well into her 90s. However, she passed away on June 2nd at the age of 101. Elizabeth McCrae. Elizabeth Betsy McCrae, best known for playing Lou Ann Poovey, Gomer's girlfriend in Gomer Pyle, USMC, passed away on May 27th at 88. Her acting career spanned from 1958 to 1989, featuring roles in TV classics like I Dream of Jeannie, Bonanza, and Gunsmoke, along with soap operas including Days of Our Lives and General Hospital. On the big screen, she appeared as Meredith in Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation. After her last role in Eddie and the Cruisers 2 in 1989, she worked as a drug and alcohol counselor in New York before returning to her roots in North Carolina with her late husband Charles. Susan Backlini. She is best remembered as Chrissy, the first victim of the great white shark in Jaws, passed away on May 11th at 77. Born on September 1st, 1946, Backlini had a range of film and TV roles throughout the 1970s and early 80s. She appeared in The Great Muppet Caper, 1981, and in Steven Spielberg's 1941-1979, where she humorously parodied her iconic Jaws scene. Her other credits included The Grizzly and the Treasure, A Stranger in My Forest, and Day of the Animals. Beyond acting, she also worked as an animal trainer and later transitioned to a career as a computer accountant after leaving Hollywood. Susan Buckner. Forever remembered as the bubbly cheerleader Patty Simcox from Grease, but before all of that, she was Miss Washington in 1971 and even competed in the Miss America pageant the next year. Her charisma led her to TV variety shows like The Dean Martin Show, The Mac Davis Show, Sonny and Cher, and The Brady Bunch Variety Hour. But it was Grease that catapulted her to fame, where her upbeat, quirky character left a lasting impression on audiences. She passed away on May 2nd at 72. Marla Adams. The daytime Emmy-winning actress, known for her long-running role as Dina Abbott Mergeron on The Young and the Restless. With a career spanning 37 years and over 200 episodes, Adams brought depth and drama to the beloved CBS soap opera. But her talents extended far beyond the halls of Y&R. Adams became a familiar face in the world of daytime TV, with notable roles on The Secret Storm, The Bold and the Beautiful, Days of Our Lives, Generations, and Capital. She passed away on April 25th at the age of 85. Meg Bennett. Meg was a talented actress and soap opera writer. Born on October 4, 1948, she began her career on stage in New York, starring in the off-Broadway musical Godspell and the Broadway version of Grease. After relocating to Los Angeles, Bennett became well known for her role as Julia Newman on The Young and the Restless, which she held for 6 years starting in 1980. She later transitioned to writing, winning a Daytime Emmy Award in 1995 for her work on General Hospital, where she also met her husband Robert Guzza Jr. She passed away on April 11th at the age of 75 after battling cancer. Barbara Rush. She starred in the 1950s sci-fi classic It Came from Outer Space, passed on March 31st at 97 years old. As both an actress of stage and screen, Rush began her career in California playhouses after studying theater at the University of California, Santa Barbara. Her screen acting debut came in 1950's The Goldbergs, followed by her breakthrough role in the Oscar-winning sci-fi film When Worlds Collide. 2 years later, she won Most Promising Newcomer at the 1954 Golden Globes for her role in It Came from Outer Space. Rush continued to star in films and TV shows with credits including The Young Philadelphians, Robin and the Seven Hoods, and Batman. Jennifer Leake. The beloved actress known for her role as Lucille Ball's daughter in the 1968 film Yours, Mine and Ours, passed away on March 18th at the age of 76. Originally from Cardiff, Wales, Leake started her career with a screen credit in the TV series Wojciech in 1966. Her film career included notable roles in Eye of the Cat, The Photographer, The Incubus, and Agent on Ice, but she truly made her mark in television. Over the years, she portrayed Olive Springer Gordon Randolph on Another World, Blanche Bouvier on Guiding Light, and Gwen Sherman on The Young and the Restless. Leake was married to Tim Matheson from 1968 to 1971 and to James Doria from 1977 until her passing. Robin Bernard. The talented actress is best remembered for her role as aspiring singer Terry Brock on General Hospital in the 1980s, passed away on March 12th at the age of 64. Born on May 26, 1959 in Gladewater, Texas, she was the older sister of Wings star Crystal Bernard. Robin made her acting debut in the 1981 French thriller Diva and appeared in guest roles on several TV shows, including Simon & Simon, Whiz Kids, and The Facts of Life. Her breakout came in 1984 when she joined General Hospital, appearing in 145 episodes until 1990. After a sporadic acting career in the 90s, her final credited role was in the 2002 straight-to-video film Voices from the High School. Pamela Salem. She was a talented British actress celebrated for her roles in the James Bond and Doctor Who franchises, had a remarkable career that spanned decades. Born in India, she pursued her education at Heidelberg University in Germany and the Central School of Speech and Drama in London. Her acting journey began in repertory theatre in Chesterfield and York, paving the way for her future successes. Salem gained notable recognition for her portrayal of Taos in the classic Doctor Who adventure The Robots of Death in 1977. She returned to the Doctor Who universe 11 years later, playing Professor Rachel Jensen in Remembrance of the Daleks, and later reprised both roles in audio plays by Big Finish Productions. She passed away on February 21st at the age of 80. Anne Whitfield. The actress best known for playing Susan Waverly in White Christmas passed away at age 85 on February 15 at Valley Memorial Hospital in Yakima, Wash, following an accident, according to a notice on the blog of Burien Wash. Born in Oxford, Mississippi in 1938, Whitfield moved to Hollywood with her mother as a child while her father was deployed in World War II. She quickly began working as an actor on nationally broadcast radio programs like The Phil Harris Alice Faye Show and One Man's Family. At age 15, Whitfield played Susan Waverly, the granddaughter of Major General Thomas Waverly, Dean Jagger, in the holiday classic White Christmas. Susan encourages her grandfather to host a performance by the film's main characters, played by Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, Rosemary Clooney, and Vera Ellen, at his hotel, which ultimately yields a moving tribute to the general himself. Whitfield's obituary states that she watched White Christmas with her family in December 2023 in celebration of the film's 70th anniversary. Chita Rivera. The legendary Tony Award-winning actress and singer Chita Rivera passed away on January 30th at 91 after a brief illness. Best known for her groundbreaking role as Anita in West Side Story, she earned numerous accolades throughout her career, including Tony Awards for Kiss of the Spider-Woman and The Rink, leaving an indelible mark on Broadway. Joyce Randolph. Remember the sitcom Honeymooners? Well, Joyce was the last surviving member of the cast. Best known for her role as housewife Trixie Norton, she appeared in 39 episodes alongside stars like Audrey Meadows and Art Carney. Joyce Randolph passed away on January 13th at the age of 99 due to natural causes. Lynn Marta. Renowned for her guest roles on television and notable appearances in films like Footloose and 3 Men and a Little Lady, Lynn was a legend in her own right. She began her career in 1966 with an appearance on Gidget and became a featured player on the anthology series Love, American Style in 1969. Marta's film credits include a role in Clint Eastwood's Joe Kidd, and she had guest spots on popular shows such as Kojak, Charlie's Angels, and Designing Women, as well as a significant role in Days of Our Lives from 1983 to 2003. She passed away on January 11th at the age of 78 after battling cancer. Maggie Smith. At a young age, Maggie Smith, born on December 28, 1934, faced a rather formidable obstacle to becoming an actress: her grandmother, who advised Smith's mother not to let the girl go on stage. She said, "You can't let her, not with a face like that," Smith recounted to Sunday Morning in 2002, "and I think it made me so angry that I decided that I'd have a go." The roles that the two-time Oscar winner subsequently played on screen and on stage projected the same determination Smith had faced down her grandmother with all those years ago. And in perhaps her most famous role as the prickly, imperious Lady Violet Crawley in the TV series Downton Abbey, or perhaps it was Maggie, her role in Harry Potter franchise as she portrayed the character of Minerva McGonagall, the stern yet caring deputy headmistress of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. She passed away on 27 September 2024.